On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're taking you inside some of the most timeless and traditionally designed homes where grand antiques, luxurious textiles, and exquisite architectural details set the scene. First, we explore a breathtaking colonial home in Connecticut, where an explosion of chintz and a palette of celery greens, rich browns, and playful prints create a warm and welcoming retreat. Next, we step into a mesmerizing New Orleans home styled as a Swamp Palazzo, a sumptuous fusion of modern fabrics and elegant continental furniture that exudes opulent charm. Then, we explore a magnificent Georgian-style home in Atlanta that is infused with English sensibility and classic elegance. Finally, we journey to the Virginia countryside to visit a Cape Cod-style home that masterfully balances bold color and fabrics, creating an atmosphere that is both refined and inviting. Watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Lizzie. Welcome to my home in Connecticut. I can't wait to show you around.
Hi, I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we're now offering a membership plan that gives our supporters early and exclusive access to new videos.
Hi, Homeworthy.
I'm Roz.
You're here at my home in Los Angeles?
Come on in. I can't wait to show you around.
With this membership, we invite you to open more doors, discovering new homes, rooms, and personalities available only to those with the keys to our guest house. You'll be part of a community of people who are just as passionate as you are about interior design. To access all of this exclusive content, simply click the Join button below to become a member today. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Lizzie Bickford Meadow, and welcome to my home in New Canaan, Connecticut. So we bought our home during the height of COVID, as many did, and as you can imagine, there were only a few homes in the market. However, we had the advantage of understanding New Canaan because we've been in love with it for far longer than we've lived here. My husband Todd and I have been visiting New Canaan for about 7 years. My sister has lived here for many years before that. And over our dating period and throughout our time together before we were married, we spent a lot of time in this community and totally fell in love with it. In fact, we looked at many homes here, I would say easily 50, if you can believe it, over several years for a weekend house. And then we decided to bite the bullet and move here. The house was built in 1952 and has had 2 families live in it previously. One of whom did a pretty big renovation and added on to the house significantly. The house expanded basically double in its footprint. And happily, we inherited a home that we loved. The former owners did a beautiful job in the renovation. But with that said, I'm a constant fixer and I love to add on and put my own touch on everything. In fact, I work in fashion, but home interiors is really I would say my passion, probably because I'm not looking at it all day and it's my happy place and my off time that I get to tweak things around the house. In fact, Todd usually asks me, where did the chair go that was in this room? And I say, well, it moved into the living room, or that's the same chair, but I recovered it in a different fabric. All of the items and furniture and pieces within our home have been previously loved. So I can say pretty confidently nothing in the home is new. I've recovered, reloved, repainted, lacquered everything in the house. I'm also I would say a little addicted to auctions. And so that's been a fun endeavor, is collecting pieces through estate sales and online auctions and bringing them into the home and making them a part of our life. We are standing in the entryway of my classic colonial home, which in its classic colonial sense is very small and tight and feels very cozy. Let's take a look at my living room. We really designed the whole house to be an entertaining space. We love our friends, we love having our family over, and so each room has its own space to entertain, pour yourself a cocktail, sit by the fire. I've set up a little bar over on this side, which constantly rotates. This table was actually in my husband's home growing up. It was their dining table with leaves that we've taken out. All antique frames that I've collected throughout my life at different estate sales or have fortunately inherited. I love using all the silver pieces from my grandparents, my parents, things we received from our wedding, kind of mixing, matching old and new. And that's a bit of the theme of our home. These chairs are some of my favorite pieces in the house. They actually, I would say belonged to my mother. She generously gave them to me. And I had them recovered. They were once a ivory sort of linen. And I found this fabulous bunchwig fabric, faux bois fabric, and recovered them. This was actually the first piece that I recovered in our home, which was for a first timer, kind of a bold move, the green faux bois, but that kind of set the theme of the room. In my rather addictive sense of collecting antiques and foraging for various items. This set here I found actually at an auction out in the Hamptons that was a red paisley and blue, and I happened to have found completely separately this vintage scalamandre fabric that I love and only had 6 yards of it. So I begged and pleaded my upholstery person, who was amazing. And he created these kind of two masterpieces for me, tying together with the detail on the bottom, the pieces. This chair is another favorite. I'm a real sucker for anything that's caned. This belonged to my husband's family and sort of had a tired old seat cushion that we recovered in a really beautiful silk velvet. Other items in this room that I love is the color. It is a Pharaoh and Ball color called Skimmed Milk that I totally fell in love with, but saw it first as a little, sample on the wall and thought, yikes, this is going to look like a dentist's office. But I actually love the soft green. It's actually quite inviting and warm. And despite what you may think about a light green, it's actually quite flattering in the room, because I was told to paint rooms the color that you look good in. So this is my new color, I guess. This painting, talking about sort of the high and lows of the house, is one of my real finds that I'm quite proud of. Found it at a antique store in Greenwich, and going through lots and lots of paintings, happened to find this one in the back. I think I paid like $300 for it, with the frame included, which seemed like a total steal. I thought, you're missing a zero on this? But anyhow, I threw it in the back of my car and it came home with me, and it kind of set set another sort of standard for this room in the direction that it took. I love all things equestrian and the equestrian lifestyle, and you'll see many notes and nods to that throughout our home. But actually, this painting was set first, and then I had all of the molding, picture frame molding added after, and it was all measured on this painting. So this sort of bargain find that I was able to procure in Greenwich really set the tone and the scale of the room with how the molding is set, which is really fun. Other items that I love in this room are just little simple things like these set of trays that I picked up again at a vintage store last summer in Nantucket, a sweet little find that I really love with some of my favorite, again, botanicals. You'll see a lot of botanicals in addition to sort of equestrian notes throughout the house. Again, another painting from my mother, which I love, that I like to layer pieces. I don't think everything has to be hung. You'll see an example of that as well over here, with, guess what? More horses. A needlepoint bench that I found at an auction that I love, an equestrian hunt scene, and a painting actually my mother found in Italy. She was a fashion model and traveled all over the world and brought many things home, some of which I'm happy to have in our home. And this was something that I had reframed. And I kind of love the juxtaposition of the simple farmhouse scenery with the ornate antique frame. These chairs I grew up with in our apartment in New York City. They have been a multitude of different things. Last time, I think they were almost like a Missoni-esque type fabric, and they sat in a garage for a long time. I absolutely love the detailing on them. And in fact, I have dining chair tables that will eventually make their way here as well. But I recently had them recovered in this really beautiful Williamsburg toile with kind of a Asian twist to it, chinoiserie that I love. And I think it just brings some new life and another point of interest. I don't think that things have to match in a space. As you'll see, we have faux bois, we have florals, we have equestrian, we have stripes, we have formal furniture, we have things that are a bit more casual. These might be one of my favorite possessions of all time. They were in my father's home in Southampton. I am a huge Mark Sykes fan, and he inspires me in all of my interior decisions. And you'll often see pieces like this used in his work. Being the person that's forever changing rooms, my poor husband, all I do is move things around. I just found this fabric that I absolutely love at a remnant store, and I have decided that these chairs are going to be recovered in this fabric, which I'm really excited about. So in my hunt, forever hunt at estate sales and tag sales, there was a tag sale here in New Canaan of someone moving out of their big home and moving on with their life. And I thought, you know, being a mom on a Sunday afternoon, I would never make it. And I made it in like the last 10 minutes of the sale. And to my absolute delight, in a corner, completely ignored, hidden behind something like an old mattress, I promise, something really bizarre, I found these two beautiful pieces. And again, my love of mixing high and low. I think I paid around $100 each for them. They were painted. They had to come home with me. And so I didn't know where I was going to put them, but I had to have them. And when I got back, I placed them next to the fireplace and thought that they really complemented and created some points of interest. And this kind of set the gold tone for the room. Originally, these were painted a sort of dark brown, and I had everything gilded after, which I thought was kind of fun. But this room definitely has a bit of sparkle between the gold and the antique silvers that adorn it. So in a room like this, which when it was blank seemed a little overwhelming and large, I think a tendency would be to just, you know, put the traditional setup of a sofa and chair. I always approach the room in the way that I approach the whole house, which is about entertaining. How are people going to converse? I want people to be comfortable. I want them to walk in and feel great on the sofa. And I want them to be able to talk here and across the room and have a conversation here or to the person next to you. I want these people to have a conversation or pull up a chair. Sometimes I think there are too many chairs in this room, but for a recent holiday, we had 16 people in this room and everyone had a seat and everyone was drinking champagne and was happy and comfortable and lingered with the fire going. So the whole point of this house and the way that I approached the design and decoration was to have people linger and stay. I love being around people. Again, we love our friends and family, and we want this to be a home to live in. So I always think about how are people going to speak to each other. I want everyone to feel like they're shouting, and I don't want anyone to feel like someone's sitting on top of them. So I create little vignettes throughout the home that people can be comfortable and find a place to perch. So as I mentioned, I'm constantly moving things around in the house. These bookshelves haven't been perfected, and I'm not sure they ever will be, but I do love playing around with them and moving things. This silver bowl was a gift to my parents-in-law on their wedding day from a friend that I cherish and love. These two pieces I picked up at Palm Beach Regency. We spent a lot of our winter down in Palm Beach, and I love shopping there, and I saw them and had to have them. These bowls I've picked up from their sort of various awards that I did not win, but I do love finding vintage trophies, and you'll see them throughout our home. I just think they're kind of fun, and I love to think about who won them at one point. And these urns actually belong to my husband's great grandmother and survived not one but two house fires. So I feel like they're a bit of good luck. And I just love playing with the bookshelves. These are my mother's. Again, everything in our house is very personal and cared for and loved, and we love having them be a part of our life. Prior to living in New Canaan, Connecticut, we lived in Rye, and before that, we lived in New York City. And as city dwellers without kids, we lived in a very modern apartment. Everything was black and gray and white and cream and was perfect. In fact, we didn't even have a houseplant and certainly didn't have a dog or a cat to take care of. I think our refrigerator had a bottle of champagne and some green juices from Juice Press. That was our New York life. Living in the country, we have really embraced the lifestyle here, which is a house that's made for family. We have two small children, Lillian, who is just 3 years old, and Pierce, my son, who's 4 years old. We have a very different life here in the country, and I love it. And in fact, I went from a very streamlined look in our Tribeca apartment to sort of a chintz explosion. I'm really embracing, the founders of the chintz movement, who I love very dearly and look up to. And there are a few designers that I really study, I would say. Certainly not a formal student, but an amateur student in the world of interior design. And you'll be able to see sort of their influence in the house. And I really pick apart design books and magazines and study each room and the composition of them. I also would say that my mother has a great eye, being a fashion model for many years and living truly on sets, sort of creating special moments and vignettes. And she has a great sense of style that I inherited. And my father is an architect. So the world of design is kind of in my blood and something I grew up around. And really just creating spaces that are beautiful and that are cozy and inviting and that you want to live in. And I think our home in Connecticut is really a reflection of that. You sort of just want to curl up by the fire or sit and read a book, neither of which I do very often because I'm usually busy running my business or taking care of the kids or traveling. But it's certainly, when I come home from a trip, it's a place that I love to call home. Yes, so we chose our home and purchased a home faster than I purchased a pair of shoes. I swear, it was the quickest process and the biggest investment of our lives, and we did it within a few minutes of walking into the home. In fact, because we moved in during COVID, or we purchased the home during COVID, there was a bit of pressure. There were only so many homes in the community that were left. And because we had worked with the same real estate broker for years, she knew exactly what we were looking for. And we were deciding between two homes. And we saw the first home and we liked it. And in fact, Todd, my husband, had stayed behind to sort of suss a few things out. And I said, I'm going to move on to the next house because we were under a bit of pressure. And I walked into the house and I called him immediately and I said, forget it, come over here, this is it. And the thing that caught me immediately is the abundance of natural light in the house. In fact, I love art and I'm at a lack of wall space because there's just windows everywhere. The house is light filled even on a rainy day. We saw it in the middle of February on a cold, snowy day, and it just had so much warmth and joy and just really felt like home the minute that we walked in. And I knew that this is the place that we wanted to live. Maybe not forever, hopefully, but for a very, very long time. I love that this house has lots of little nooks and crannies. One of my favorite possessions in the house, although I know that there are many that I've mentioned, was actually featured when we did my house in Rye. And it's this painting, which I bought at one of my favorite restaurants in Southampton that no longer exists, Silver's. It once hung over our fireplace at our home in Rye, and now I get to see it every day from multiple vantages of the room, or for the house rather. I love that the house is filled with all of these little moments. And so I wanted to create a moment out of it. And I don't think you should be afraid of making a special moment in little corners of your home. Celebrate it and play with it and work on it until it's right. I found this again at an auction. This I bought down in Palm Beach, which I love. I anchored this table with a rug. I love citrus trees. Of course, they remind me of warm sunny days in Palm Beach, but also I think it just adds a bit of liveliness and lightness and beauty, natural beauty. And so we created a little moment here with some of our favorite photos from our life. I did the same in this cozy little area here where it's just could be a very simple little pass through. And while it may seem a little tight, it actually is kind of a nice entranceway that brings you back through our front door to our formal living. But let's make our way into the dining room. One thing that I love about this house is all of the formal spaces. We love to entertain, and we have 2 dining rooms. One is more family, and this one we love to have for intimate dinners with friends. This table I bought, guess where, at an auction. And sometimes I play with this room. I'll make it a round table with books and a big ginger jar and flowers and sort of objects of curiosity that almost feels like a pass-through hall. I sometimes do a dessert buffet in here when we're having parties. And this room is really quite functional. All of the things on the table, we'll be hosting some friends this evening for dinner, are special to us. These glasses I actually bought here in New Canaan at Nantucket Monogram. A friend of mine owns the store, and I fell in love with the glasses this summer, and I ended up buying the entire set. I think I have 40 of them or something for large parties. These napkins are from our wedding that I had embroidered with our duogram. These are our wedding china, Hermes. This is a mix of different silver that we have from my mother, my father, my mother-in-law. And I love mixing silver up. I don't think you have to have a totally matching set if like patterns in your home speak to each other. The silver and the tableware can as well. This is a vintage set that was given to us as a wedding gift. And then my favorite sort of course, Equestrian-inspired Hermes serving pieces. I love florals. I love floral decor, as I'd mentioned. It's one of my passions, and doing arrangements like this, just natural botanicals, are some of my favorites. I don't think you always have to use a vase. This is a sort of a beautiful silver vintage bowl that I create arrangements in, and you'll see those throughout my house as well. I think florals are a really nice way to bring a bit of joy into every room. So the beauty of this table is that it can be an intimate round, very intimate for 4. This could probably fit 6. And we have another leaf that allows us to sit 10. Our other dining room comfortably sits 8 people. And on occasions like Thanksgiving or Christmas, where we have a lot of people here, I actually transform our library, which sits next to our family dining room, into another dining room, which is another fun sort of fireside dining experience. I'm someone who really believes in using the good stuff every day. I don't save our china for a formal dinner. I don't save our silver for Christmas. I like integrating all of our good pieces every day. Again, I think it's that investing in your lifestyle pieces, whether it's your wardrobe or your home. Don't put your pretty things away in closets and cabinets and just wait for once or twice a year to use it. I'm someone who errs on the side of formality. I love setting an elegant table. We eat pretty much like this with our kids, teaching them, how to dine and practice being out. I really love to set a beautiful tablescape and to entertain our friends at our home. My husband and I love to cook, and we love to have people over. I love music. I love creating playlists. And so I love, as an extension of what I do in my everyday and creating brand experiences, I love to create my own brand experience and invite my family and friends to join me in that. So in our love of entertaining, one thing that I really do love about this house is the previous owners provided a lot of storage space for what they didn't know, but would be my somewhat abundant collection of plates and that I collect. Whether it's our wedding china or pieces that we inherited or pieces that I purchased on trips or again at auctions. There's lots of storage space, which is great. This dining room leads into a very open concept kitchen. I love the fact that there's a beautiful display case here for our china, but also I have pull open drawers that store quite a bit. I have summer china to dine by our pool. There's all sorts of occasions special for Christmas, Thanksgiving, the holidays. I really love to create a theme and build a tablescape around that. Obviously, my wedding china is one of my favorites, which is the blue and white from Hermes. But one of my favorite plates are these actually very simple plates that I bought last summer, 2 summers ago in Saint-Tropez. They're just vintage. I found them in the marketplace. I loved them. Sadly, there were only 4, but I get to use them when I have a smaller dinner. And then I'm a sucker for anything cabbage, which you'll see in my kitchen. And these are some of my favorites as well. I love using these for special breakfasts, desserts, luncheons, etc. And it goes on and on and on. This was my parents' wedding china that I have a few pieces of that I love. Sweet little tea sets, special silver pieces from my grandparents that I've inherited. My husband's parents' wedding china as well. So there's lots of significance throughout the home and what we use on special occasions and every day. So I would say my favorite type of architecture for a home is Georgian, and that is the majority of the houses that we looked at. However, we ended up buying a very traditional colonial home. And I would say the inside definitely has a wow factor. There's things that being a constant person of perfection and wanting to constantly sort of reshape and reimagine things. There are things that I still want to do to the house, but it's a classic colonial home that I sort of always joke that it's the perfect home to pick up your prom date or to have Thanksgiving dinner. It feels very, very cozy, and the house is very long. And so when you arrive at it, you sort of, it doesn't have an overpowering sense, but when you are inside of it, you meander from room to room. And that was something that I was really attracted to as well when we were looking at homes, as many of the homes that we had seen sort of had a more modern style in terms of great open spaces. And I like cozy spaces. And I love that this room has not one, but actually 2 dining rooms, a cozy library, a family room, a great big kitchen for everyone to gather in, long hall, lots of spaces to sort of discover. And in fact, even we've had friends over who have said, wait, there's another room here, because it kind of just keeps going. And all throughout, again, that abundance of light just makes it feel very welcoming and bright and sunny and happy. I would say the style of the interiors probably lean towards the grand millennial, though that feels like a trend word, which I think the house really is classic and traditional in a sense. It's light and bright. I've used a lot of celeries that have been juxtaposed with browns. I have faux bois and toiles. I have lacquered pieces and brass and glass pieces, and my eyes are darting around because I'm looking at just this one room alone. And I would say that it also lends to being eclectic because, as I mentioned, there's not one piece here that was bought from a catalog or a store. So every single piece has been handpicked, which has been a really fun and exciting journey to be on. And many people walk into our home and say, how long have you lived here for? And we say 2.5 years, and they're shocked because it really feels like almost a home that we inherited, because there is that constant sense of layering. And I don't like anything too perfect. I think also in my sense of style and in my fashion sense, I like something to be a little bit off. Right? So mixing of patterns and colors and textures and a moment of something that's unexpected. And I often think, as I noted, my parents were a big inspiration or have been a big inspiration, as well as, Bunny Williams and, Stephen Sills and Mark Sykes, Barada, right? All of the people who have inspired me. There's someone that I can really point my finger to that taught me how to put something together. And that is my former boss and my constant mentor, Sam and Libby Edelman. They taught me about how to not be afraid to layer textures and patterns, and that little bit of excitement and whimsy that can be injected by something being a little bit off and a little bit weird and a little bit fun and a little bit strange. And they really directed me and taught me how to make that happen through observation and through spending a ton of time with them. And while I ran their marketing PR for years, they continue to be dear friends and mentors, obviously in my personal life as well as my professional life. So whether it's hosting a luncheon for friends or a Sunday brunch, we love to use the kitchen as sort of the central hub of the house. We often have family dinners at this countertop or this island, and a lot of fun conversations, a lot of laughs have happened around this special part, which everyone says the kitchen is the heart of your home. So while I have my favorite plates, a few favorite plates, I should say, and I'd mentioned my love for anything that's cabbage or botanical throughout my home, I also love to mix and match. None of these are a matching set, but I think it's kind of fun to put the different pieces together and to create a thematic look, but with a little bit of irreverence to it. Nothing has to match in life, right? It creates a little bit of interest. Speaking about creating interest, I know that there's often a divide in terms of keeping your refrigerator clean or cluttered. And I don't mean the inside, I mean the exterior. Before children, I would have sworn that I would have a very clean front refrigerator. However, it has become basically a gallery for my kids' artwork, which I absolutely love, and it brings me so much joy. It's constantly changing out with pieces. Some have been here for years and some pieces are new additions. This is truly the most valuable and precious art in my house, and I absolutely love it. So now that we've seen the formal living room, the formal dining room, the entryway, and the kitchen, we're going into the part of the home that we truly live in, which I would say is our family quarters. This dining room, I absolutely love. I love that it's light-filled. We live on a 40-acre nature preserve, so you'll often see coyote or deer, lots of wildlife running behind you. This chandelier was a gift from my father. It hung, as many pieces did in our house in Southampton, and I grew up dining under it for my entire life. So I love that it's here, and I think it creates a really fun, cozy atmosphere and suits the room just so well. This dining table is where we have many holiday dinners, every night dinners. My son builds Legos. It's not uncommon for this table to be covered in many Legos, although pro tip, we do the Lego building on either cookie sheets or trays so that it can be easily picked up and moved to another room if we're having guests over, or it can just be kind of modified to a smaller project. But this table, like the kitchen, is sort of an extension of our everyday heart of the home, and where we love to spend a lot of time. So as we do love to entertain, which is the theme of this house, apparently, we have a little wet bar here that we actually love and use quite often. We have a wine refrigerator, which basically stores a bunch of champagne, a collection of all of our glasses. These belong to my husband's great grandmother, which I love, these coupes, and we use them for everything from martinis to Manhattans to champagne. Again, always use the good stuff. Our wedding champagne glasses that are by Baccarat that I love. These glasses were my father's, from my father's side, wedding presents to my grandparents, and then to my parents that have our family crest on it and Bickford inscribed on it that I absolutely love. Some other items on here that are special. These silver trays belong to my mother, as did these decanters, as did this actually. This I recently picked up. I love this pretty hand towel again with the equestrian theme. Here are more of my botanical etched glasses that I had mentioned and shown in the dining room. These are from my father's side as well, just beautiful little glasses with B for Bickford on them, and so on and so forth. Everything is just kind of I love these actually. These belong to my mom's mom, who was an avid tennis player. She lived in Greenwich and played tennis for her whole life. And we have, it was one for her and one for her husband. And we have those that are a special part of our collection as well. So it always reminds me of my grandmother, Betty. So I think my sense of interior style is very much like my sense of fashion and what I wear. I'm drawn to classic designs, timeless designs. I think as I'm approaching my 40s, I'm starting to invest in pieces both in my home and my wardrobe that will last a lifetime, and leaning less, pulling away sort of from fast fashion or fast interiors and being very thoughtful about the pieces that are around me and that the pieces that I truly invest in. And that could be investing in time as well, right? I mean, I've purchased things on auction that look like $1 million and I paid nothing for it, right? So I think it's also just having an eye for how things go together. I think that, and the same in my wardrobe. I love vintage shopping. It's one of my favorite things. And I'll walk into a, vintage store and I'll walk out with a lamp and a belt or, a sweater or something or a blazer and sort of blend it into my life. But I think that my personal style overall could be defined as classic, timeless, but always having a bit of fun with it, right? Turning things a little bit off their head, like a little bit off center, having things being a little bit quirky and cool. I think that really gives you instead of being cookie cutter, a real sense of style and personalized, a personalized look. Todd has a big opinion about design. I'm so grateful for him for so many reasons. He's an amazing person and partner, and is very supportive of me in all senses of my life, in all senses of that word. But especially when I'm running around the house at 11 o'clock at night, rearranging things or recovering something with a staple gun. He lets me do my thing, which I love, but he does have an input and I value his input. He's very technical in the way that he thinks, but he's also incredibly creative. His mother studied fine painting, as did his grandmother, and actually one of her paintings is in our living room. And so he definitely has an artistic and creative eye and a great sense of style, which I really value. And I value his input, and we have fun together. We make all life's decisions together, whether it comes to, the home that we buy, the way that we raise our children. We work in very different industries, but we consult each other on many things in our professional lives. And so the house has been a fun extension of that part of our relationship. This is our family room. We love this room. Again, this is the room that I walked in when I first saw the home and fell absolutely in love with it. I love all of the windows. I love the open format of it. We spend most of our time in this room. Again, the room is dotted with pieces that I grew up with. Rattan and bamboo are some of my favorite textures and types of furniture. These were in our apartment in New York City growing up, and they have a new life here in Connecticut. This was the dining table that I grew up with, this pine table that just kind of felt right in this space. Again, maybe one day we pull it out and we use it, but for right now, it holds this great little pagoda that I bought in Palm Beach and some vintage lamps. And these are doll houses that my dad actually had built for my sister and I, and we repainted them and gifted them to our children, Todd and I, to our children, last Christmas from Santa, which was really exciting to be able to pass that along, and special for my dad to come see when he visits our home. The bookshelves are again filled with family photos. We love to travel, so there's some from all over the place, wonderful books. A fun tradition that my husband and I have is each Christmas he gifts me a book from Abilene, a different travel location that we've been to or I've been to and that we love, which is really fun. So we have some of my favorite Abilene books featured here in these bookshelves. Art is a big part of our life. Again, I sort of noted a few pieces throughout the home that we collect. And art, as we've all heard, should be something that speaks to you. And so a lot of the art is very personal. This is a piece that we picked up in the Hamptons a few years ago that we love that hung in our apartment in Tribeca. These two photographs are done by a friend of mine, Natalie Obradovich, who I met in Paris 20 years ago. And we've remained friends. She lives in New York City now, and I'm a big supporter of her work. And we've actually collaborated on many occasions. And so it's fun to have two pieces of hers in our home. And I have two more pieces upstairs. This chair here is a cool piece to point out. And again, side note, baskets. Life is not perfect everywhere. The inside of these baskets are filled with all my kids' toys. This chair belonged to my great-grandfather on my mother's side. And actually, he was a very accomplished sailor and made very long journeys around the world. And this was on one of his boats. And so this is a really special captain's chair that we have in our home as well. That's kind of fun to be able to sit in. Our home is really about welcoming friends and family at any time. And part of that is creating spaces that are functional. We've explored the formal living room, the formal dining room, the various places throughout the home. This is really our family room where we live. And we created a space that can welcome our kids. We can play on the floor. We use a technical fabric on the sofa. We use an indoor-outdoor rug in this space so that any spills can be quickly and easily cleaned away. Why add more stress to your life by having really precious fabrics in spaces that you know that you're going to have toddlers in? Don't set yourself up for that. So now that you've seen the majority of the first floor, we've ended up in the entrance that we use quite often, which is our family entrance by the kitchen. This entrance is great because you can easily access the family room. There's stairs to the children's part of the house, and the kitchen is right here. So in terms of foot traffic, this space gets the most. Some things that I love that are notable about this space. This piece was actually in my husband's parents' dining room growing up. And when we were moving in, it kind of sat here and I thought, wow, this is perfect. The mirror was my mother's, which I also love. And it just makes for a great sort of family welcome to the home. This clock is one that I referenced earlier. This belonged to my great-grandfather and then my grandfather and sat in his office in New York City. My dad gave it to Todd and I and had it restored to hang on our wall, which is really fun. And I grew up with it in my home in Southampton, and it's really fun to have my my children sort of interact with it and wonder as they're learning to read what all the words are on it, which is really fun. And here we are back in the kitchen. So my professional journey started in the music industry, actually. I started at Epic Records in A&R as an intern, and then I moved to Columbia Records when I graduated college and worked in top 40 promotion and traveled around in the world of rock and roll. And that was awesome. I have many stories with some of the greats in the industry, including one of my favorites is having a dim sum dinner late night with Steven Tyler. And he gave me the hat that he was wearing with feathers, which I have upstairs in my closet that my son was wearing running around the house the other day. So that was an amazing part of my career. I think what I learned in that part of the industry is the essence of marketing. So whether it's a product or an artist, how to tell a brand story in a really engaging way. I also started my career sort of on the cusp of the digital revolution in the sense where we were going from CDs to digital downloads, and there was a big change in that. And so there was a lot to learn all at once about marketing and the great shift, which is now something that we've all adapted to. I think my passion point that I was able to identify and connect with in my early 20s was brand experience and pairing the ability to be organized and brand a product, right, or an artist, and to be able to somehow just, I didn't train formally for it. I just knew how to bring a brand to life and do events, which would now be called, of course, experiential marketing. Putting all of those pieces together allowed me to have a sort of constant throughout my career, which eventually brought me into the world of fashion. I think essentially I'm a people person. I can talk to anyone about anything. I can kind of drag things out of people, and I'm interested authentically in people and their stories. And so pairing the marketing side and the interest in storytelling kind of just all evolved very naturally. I was not a English major in school and somehow became an editor. I've had my, I've run fashion magazines. I've run society and fashion sections of newspapers. My work has been published nationally. All of it has been a bit of determination and fearlessness in a sense, and the ability to default to saying yes. So I think that people have, I've done lots of interviews, which I'm so fortunate to have done throughout my career. And the one question that I get asked is, what's the secret sauce? How do you do it? And I would love to say that I get 8 hours of sleep and I drink tons of water and I exercise. I don't do any of those. I am a passionate person about bringing brands to life and about what I do and making things more beautiful and dynamic and telling brand stories through experience. I live and breathe what I do outside of my family life. I am constantly working, but I feel fortunate that I've been able to create a career doing what I love. But it is certainly, there's been no shortcut and there's been no easy way. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, a lot of long, endless hours, trips around, 16-hour airplane rides around the world, what have you. If I see an opportunity, I go after it. Well, I love spending time in so many rooms in my house and the house in general. There's one room that I spend a particular amount of time in, and that's my office. Let me show you. And this room, as they say, is where the magic happens. This is my creative space, my office, my place to retreat and hang. I love this room. It brings me so much joy. And in fact, it's really fun because in this world of meetings via Zoom, a lot of people get to see sort of my style and taste and often say, where are you sitting? I love the wallpaper. I designed this room with actually the help of a really great local interior designer who owns a great store in town called Found. And she and I worked together on pulling this room together. I went for a maximalist look in this space, and everything is custom. This chair was actually again in our home in Southampton, and the other pair, which I kind of love, is in my dad's house down in Palm Beach. I love the fact that we covered the lampshades in the fabric that is with the chair. This chair is what I use to sit in, but I love because this was actually a chair from CB2 that was a pink velvet that Todd bought for me when we lived in Tribeca. And I loved the shape of it, but the style of it, the fabric no longer sort of fit our home. And so I had it recovered, and I actually had it put on a base to make it a bit higher because it was very, very low. And I added this little like boudoir skirt. And I just love it and think it's a really sweet piece. This desk I bought at auction, can you believe it? At an estate sale that I love, and it's kind of my workhorse, and I beat it up a little bit with throwing, pens and papers and writing on it and whatnot. But it is a little special piece. And this little cute pagoda was at my grandmother's house in a powder room at her house in Palm Beach, which I love. And it just sort of is a style that I really enjoy seeing as I'm sitting here doing all of my work every single day. So again, I love a bit of whimsy and irreverence when planning a room. And I think that needlepoint is a funny way of saying something without actually saying it. And this is, again, my office. And so here it is, you again, although this does double as a guest bedroom. So I do put it out sometimes as well. This bed, actually, this day bed, is one of those high-low pieces. I actually ordered this off of Amazon and had it covered in actually a wallpaper at the recommendation of my dear friend, Danielle Rollins. And she suggested that I use this particular wallpaper because it was backed and it wouldn't tear like a fabric might on a day bed that would get a lot of use. So thank you, Danielle. and your expert advice on that. I spend a lot of time in this space. I absolutely love it. My husband gave me this ashtray one Christmas as a sort of continuation of our wedding china, which I love. And this is sort of just where all of my creative energy is spent, and my little cozy oasis in my home. My favorite thing about our home is the collection of family heirlooms that we have created sort of a stage for. It means a lot to me when our parents are here and they say, you know, they feel like home, or they're so happy to see their items that they loved and cherished and inherited from their grandparents or even great-grandparents scattered throughout the house. So there's lots of layers and elements to the house that really speak to our family values of continued tradition, and speak to the way in which we want to raise our kids, which is in a home filled with love and filled with memories that we can make among all of these beautiful heirlooms, and that we teach them to cherish and take care of as well, because they'll be theirs one day. So I think that's a really special part of our house that I truly love. And when I walk through the front door after a long day or a trip far away, that it really feels cozy and personal and appointed with all of the things that we cherish. Home, to me, as cliche as it sounds, is really where the heart is. I have lived in many, many different places. I've lived in different countries. I've lived in different cities, different states. Home means to me where there is warmth and love, and where your loved ones are. I had divorced parents growing up, and I had two homes. And that is kind of a hard thing to wrap your head around as a kid, but it was when I walked through the door, home was where my parents were. We try to create that for our kids, that they walk through the front door and they're excited to be here, and that it's filled with love and warmth and kindness and all of the things that make you feel cozy. To me, that is where home is. Someone has asked me recently sort of what's the favorite place that you've lived? And there's many, but in a very different scale. One of my favorite homes was, I had a tiny studio apartment on the Upper East Side on 92nd and Park. And it was this tiny, cozy little walk up, and it had a fireplace. And that was my little oasis in the city for many, many years. And despite it being a shoebox and rather dark, it was the coziest little place to be in a big city. And now in the wide open country, I love being in our house because every room feels cozy and inviting and lovely. And that to me is what home is.
Well, hi, Homeworthy. I am Michael.
And I'm Quinn. Welcome to our New Orleans house. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Like and subscribe for more.
I'm Quinn Pieper, and we're in the sitting room of our house in New Orleans.
And I am Michael Harold, also in the city where I grew up, born and reared.
I'm an obstetrician gynecologist here in New Orleans. I've been practicing about 28 years here. And I grew up in Osceola, Arkansas during the weekend with my grandparents, and then during the week with our family in Memphis, Tennessee. Then I went to Lexington, Virginia, to Washington and Lee University, and then to Oxford in England for 3 years, and then Columbia for medical school, and more residency in New York, and then I came to New Orleans.
I went to a university in Tennessee, same state where he pretty much grew up in, at a small little school called Sewanee, and then I spent a junior year abroad in Spain learning the language, which I love. I still speak it and still enjoy it. and then went to law school at LSU here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and practiced for 23 years, and then quit, resigned, and I started a legal recruiting business. So now I help lawyers find new jobs.
Well, I had been away from the South for a long time, as far as England, and lived in New York for about 8 years. And so I wanted to come back south, but I wanted to be in a city that had a lot of history and culture and a cuisine, and New Orleans was it. It just fit the bill perfectly.
It is kind of a funny story how we met. We were on an airplane flying from New Orleans to New York, and we were sitting next to each other. And
I was coming to New Orleans for an interview for this job that I have.
And Quinn said something about, oh, you know, I play the piano. I said, I did too. And I think he kind of thought, yeah, right. And I said, oh no, I really do. And we compared notes on things we played, and we actually both had played one of these four-hand piano duets, to each of us with different people. And that led us to meeting up back in New Orleans and playing pianos and playing music and giving concerts.
Then we decided to write a book after a big concert that we gave in New Orleans, which was called Rock and Bach, because I played Rachmaninoff 2 with the Louisiana Philharmonic, and Michael played Bach Concerto No. 5. So with that, we started writing a book, and it's a book about food and entertaining guests and our music.
And if truth be told, we actually went to this beautiful lunch in London, and this woman is a famous writer, and she gets up and she toasts everyone, and she said, it's so nice to be around everyone who's written books. And I kind of looked down because I was embarrassed. I thought I've not written a book, and Quinn did write one. You can tell him the topic, but.
Well, I mean, it's a gynecologic book, and nobody's having that on their coffee table.
Right. So we get on the plane, we're flying back to New Orleans, and Quinn says, that's it, we're writing a book. And I said, oh, go ahead. I'm not about to do it. Well, we started talking about it, and yep, we ended up writing a book, and it's been very enlightening, and we have met incredibly great people doing this, all sorts of people. It opened up doors that I never knew existed. It's been a really fun experience.
So thanks to Antonia Fraser
Yes.
and Flora Fraser for cheering us on.
Yeah. The title of the book says Amateur Artistry, and we did that on purpose because neither of us are chefs, we're not professional pianists, we're not decorators or professional designers. This is just for fun, and that's why I was insistent on saying amateurs, because I don't want the world to think that we're any professionals here.
And amateur is, you know, from the Latin meaning I love, and we love doing these things.
Yeah, it is fun.
Welcome to the foyer. The inspiration for this room came from Julia Reed. I saw her book that she wrote, I think it's One Man's Folly, about Furlough Gatewood. I saw it when it was in the galleys phase before it was actually released and published. And I asked her what this technique was on Mr. Gatewood's wall, and she told me that it was just plywood. So here we have our version of Mr. Gatewood's plywood, given this nice rusticated look, which is kind of formal for a foyer. And I always wanted a nice foyer, and this was a double house in New Orleans. So there was a staircase here that went up along that wall, and there's no reason to have two staircases in this if it's a single dwelling. So by eliminating this staircase, we had a deeper foyer for for this, for instance, console that is a George III piece. And I'm particularly fond of this mirror. This is a French mirror. And if you look closely at the frieze, they're playing musical instruments, and that's kind of what Michael and I do. So it's a rather perfect thing for this foyer. This actually has a pretty funny story. Would you like to talk about this, Michael? We love Grand Tour artifacts, and this was from a trip to Italy.
It's got
that got me in trouble. They got me in trouble departing the country.
Yeah, we were in the Rome airport, the international airport, and suddenly the gentleman who's the TSA in Rome starts laughing and laughing, and he's like, "Come here, bene, you know, you have to see this. It was only the vedere," whatever he said. And so we go, and he said, "You can come back and look." And I look, and here's this huge foot in this suitcase. Obviously, I mean, you're the doctor. You would see
You would see bones. But the woman who initially saw it totally freaked out, thinking that Michael and I are leaving Rome after we've dismembered somebody and took a foot along as a souvenir. But
that was funny. And then this is a culture. We're lucky to live just a few blocks away from a very talented linen owner. Leontine Linens is the name of the store. And the owner is our friend, Jane Scott Hodges. She did the beautiful monogram for us. You'll see through the house a bunch of Quinn's needlepoint as we give you a tour, but this is my favorite. He did this door pull, and it's in Latin. And Dorothy Parker had a quote, and it said, when people would ring her bell, is that what it is?
Yeah.
It would say, "What fresh hell is this?" And so Quinn put it in Latin. I don't know why you didn't want to have her.
Well, I just don't think if it said, "What fresh hell is this?" people would feel that welcome.
Yeah, I guess you're right. They would not be
unless
happy
they
about
know
that.
Latin, and if they do, then
Good for them.
yeah. These are more grand tour intaglios, which we like to collect. These are engravings of various buildings at Oxford University, where I spent 3 happy years. This is a engraving of Blenheim. It's called Blenheim House, but it's Blenheim Palace, where Michael and I got married. And here is a little frieze of the Duke of Wellington. We have a lot of Duke of Wellington things in the house because, unbeknownst to us at the time, June 18th is Waterloo Day. And Lady Antonia Fraser told us, you know you're getting married on Waterloo Day. And we really didn't. But since she's told us that, we have collected things of the Duke of Wellington in our house. And in New Orleans, where everybody wants Napoleon, the Duke of Wellington is much cheaper and easy to collect.
This is a kind of a funny story. We live in a city with magnificent houses, all of them just one better than the other. And we had an old house, and we sold the old house, and we had to find a new one. And Quinn was insistent upon an antebellum home with soaring 14-foot ceilings and all these beautiful crown molding that you see in the houses here. And the realtor said, "Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but this is not an antebellum home. It was built in 1862. And we said, "Okay, well, we'll call it the Bellum House because it's not ante or post. It's flat out during the war," which is pretty fascinating. But what's so good about the house are the rooms. The rooms are perfect for entertaining. That's why we really enjoyed here.
Our previous house was an Edwardian house, and it was in uptown New Orleans. And I call those homes, pre-birth control pill houses, because I think they were 3 stories with lots and lots of bedrooms. And this is 2 stories. This is actually a camelback house. 1 story with an addition on the second making a kind of camelback. And it's for better entertaining, this house. We don't need 6 bedrooms.
No, we don't. Mm-mm. All right, now we're going to take you into one of our favorite rooms, the sitting room or the living room. This way.
I'd like to start with this painting here. This is a painting by Pickersgill, who was with the Royal Academy, and this is Major General Sir Robert Wilson. He was a professional mercenary, and as you can tell by all the medals on his chest, he worked for a lot of different countries. He was involved with the Napoleonic Wars. He was with Tsar Alexander in East Prussia and Nelson in Egypt, and he actually became a member of Parliament. And this painting was, I received it in a will by the previous tenant of this house. And I remember seeing it a long time ago when I lived in Memphis as a teenager. It was featured when his house, Walker Ronaldson's house, was in Southern Accents. And it was in his dining room back then. So this Major General Wilson has made the rounds, shall we say. Another aspect of this room that I like a lot and enjoy are our bookcases. These bookcases are inspired from William Kent at Holcombe Hall, and they're painted a creamy color and gilt, and they contain a lot of my favorite books. One book over here in particular is, I guess the oldest book that I have in this collection is a 1630 biography of Queen Elizabeth I. Someone once asked me, "Do you really want me to believe that you've read all these books on this shelf?" And I said, "Actually, I'm insulted. You think these are the only books I've ever read." But they contain a lot of really fun stuff, all the way from Victorian editions of Punch to Alice in Wonderland, several copies of the Diary of Samuel Pepys, and I think visitors enjoy looking at them as well. The fireplace is original and came with the house, and the mirror is from a great antique store here called Lucullus. It's a Louis Philippe gilt mirror. And these wonderful globes are painted globes. They're actually 18th century from a great dealer friend of ours, Michael Carbine at Mac Maison Antiques. Unfortunately, at some point in the 70s, a contractor got hold of this house and he or she bricked up all of the fireplaces. So we have to put, you know, palmettos in the front to make it look appealing.
All right, I have to brag about Quinn because he's not going to brag about himself. But as you know, he's a surgeon, and I have, when I tell you, zero home craft capabilities, none, no talent for it. But I'm going to brag. Look at this pillow; it's incredible. He needlepoints everything, and it's his way of relaxation. He doesn't travel anywhere without canvases and stitching. Here's another one right here. He did.
That's a pear.
Oh, a pear, yeah. And then show him this one, hot mess.
This was my COVID needlepoint. You know, as a doctor, I was working at labor and delivery a lot. I wasn't really locked down. I was in the hospital. So hot mess, and that about says it all about COVID.
I keep telling him, I think he should have a pillow in his clinic, in his office, to say, look, if you need a good surgeon, this stuff's perfect. So anyway, I can brag about him. But I think, and also almost every room has his pillows. They're terrific.
I needlepointed, I don't know. I started up again in New Orleans for sure. Needle Arts, they took me under their wing and taught me a stitch or two. This is my armorial bearings. I did this needlepoint to make a fire screen. So you'll see a lot of this throughout the house. This is a grant of arms from the Royal College of Arms, and it sort of tells the story, I guess, of my life. I worked with Henry Bedingfield at the time. He was the York Herald. And so we have the stork here and the stork here on the crest. And at one point, he introduced me to these piano keys. You know, I play the piano. When he first wrote me about the piano keys, I thought, well, I don't know, that sounds kind of tacky. And he said, well, you know, there's only one version of this left because we have 3 black keys, 2 black, and then 3 black. So you can have the 2, 3, 2. And after I finished talking to him, I thought, well, I wonder who has the other. So I emailed him back and I said, who has the other keyboard? And his response was 3 words, Sir Elton John. So I was like, oh, well, you know what? I've thought over and I think I will take the 2, 3, 2. So here you can see 2, 3, 2. And the Latin here is Gaudia per manus meas, and that's joy through my hands, which is, you know, delivering babies, playing the piano, and doing needlepoint. Okay, the boxes are some of my decoupage. And so I take marbled papers. Sometimes I make the marbled papers. These I didn't. And these are different composers commemorated in stamps and currency. So this is Chopin. This is when I was playing the Chopin concerto. This is Bach with Bach currency and stamps. Michael played the Bach concerto in a program. And he also did Mozart. And here is Rachmaninoff. This is Russian money and Rachmaninoff stamps that I used for this one. This box is Mozart operas. So each stamp is a different Mozart opera. So together they make a nice little place for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. You know, this room tends to get a little leggy. It's very 18th century. We don't have many upholstered pieces. And so just to do something with this sofa, you can see it was the legs here.
We have stuff under it hidden,
Ethan
I'm sure.
Allen, so we decided to just go ahead and cover the sofa and give it a little softer look in here. And I like camelback sofas, so I think it was a good save.
In a camelback house. It's kind of a rust color. Yeah, I love it. It came out great. I don't remember where you even found it.
The rust is good. I mean, it picks up the kind of rust red coat of Major General Robert Wilson there, so. We
had a wedding ceremony in England at Blenheim Palace, and we're friends with the daughter of now the sister of the Duke, Henrietta, Spencer Churchill. And Quinn said, "Oh, I think it would be great if we got married." And she said, "Well, have it here at home." Anyway, we did it there, and it was one of the greatest days ever. It was just fantastic. So Quinn gets online and decides, I think it would be really funny. He doesn't tell me. He goes and Googles Queen Elizabeth lookalikes. And sure enough, this woman, Patricia Ford, is that her name? She shows up, and he calls her and hires her to come. And of course, she didn't fool any of the Brits, but we had a number of people from New Orleans who really kind of thought
dropping
it was Queen Elizabeth.
curtsies.
Oh yeah, it was like having Santa Claus, at a Christmas party. It was just priceless, and she's still around, I guess, playing Queen Elizabeth. But anyway, it was really funny.
Well, the house was actually a duplex or a double. We had one friend who called it a double wide, which, it's not a double wide. But what we did was basically take out some walls here and there and reinforce some other places so that it could flow. And it's kind of a mirror image on both sides throughout the house.
It's a side-by-side duplex, and coincidentally, we knew the owner of the house and we knew her tenant, which was good and bad.
Well, the tenant didn't want to leave, and he was our very, very
he was a good friend.
Dear friend.
And he thought when we bought the house that he would just stay here as a renter, and we had to say no. And then it was not a fun situation. And then the owner was absolutely hilarious. She's no longer with us, but man, did she have a great wit. And I do have a lesson in when you're taking somebody else's house and you're renovating it, do not show them mid-renovation. She looked at, we'll show you the bar that we have. It was an old bathroom, and she horrified that we got rid of her tiles. So I'll never do that again. We'll just wait till the finished product happens and then show the prior owner what we did.
If you want to have them over at all.
Yeah, they were great though. One thing I do love about this house, it's interesting when we entertain, people come straight back here. This is where the bar is, and that's the first thing people want to do is have a drink. So this room becomes the most crowded, packed room in the house. But it's great because everybody, if people don't know each other, they end up they're so closely tight together that they end up all having to talk to each other, which is really a good icebreaker, actually.
As far as the renovation of the house is concerned, there were closets that divided this apartment from this apartment. So when we removed the closets, we actually ended up with a nice little inner foyer here. So this is the bar foyer. And if you look at these columns, I had eyed these columns for years, and they also came from Mac Maison. They're 18th century Italian, and they look like, they just reminded me of creme de menthe parfaits that I had as a child. I probably teethed on those creme de menthe parfaits, and so that's one of my favorite after dinner drinks over ice, so I thought it would be perfect for the entrance of our bar.
Now, why don't we go into the bar? So as I think I mentioned earlier, the house has a duplex. This was a bathroom, and we did not need to have two bathrooms across from each other. What's the point? We had plumbing, so why not have a real bar? And boy, I love this bar. It is a fun room. It's a little over the top, but why not, right? So Quinn, actually, we call this our eBay ancestor. He found this before steel, and I love the portrait. I think it's just beautiful.
I like the waistcoat.
Me too.
The waistcoat is really
good.
The
blue and white stripes.
Yeah, our house is actually full of eBay ancestors, is what I call them, because when you move from a 9-foot ceiling house to a 14, you suddenly have to expand your art and make it fill the space. This also came from Walker Ronaldson, the chandelier. It's a Baccarat chandelier, and we purchased that from him.
And sometimes when it comes to collections, you can see we have lots of them. We like cocktail shakers. This one's beautiful, the green one. I love that one. And Quinn, one time, we went to Paris and we went to the flea market there, and then he started collecting barware, and now it's everywhere.
I call them bar toys.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A lot of these are like Aesop's fables, and you can use these for cherries or for olives.
The one I like the most is this. What is it? A dragon? It's a sailboat and a corkscrew.
It's a Viking.
Oh, it's a Viking.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this ice bucket I love. This commemorates the age of exploration, on ice, the polar areas. So there's a bear and a little explorer. Well, I like creme de menthe over crushed ice, but that's after dinner.
Yeah, that's after
Martinis, I guess, we love, and
champagne, and we like to have interesting champagne glasses. I don't know where you found these, But these are beautiful. They're sexy.
These are really fun because they're 1930s. I got these at Worthmore Antiques from Gaylord. And you drink and you think you're done. If you hit your head back just a bit more, you end up with a big splash in your face. So we always have to warn guests
people
that this part right here contains some champagne also.
Yeah.
I love this silver. This is from the first class part of the Normandy, and the designer Luc Linnell designed these pieces. So I've been collecting these over the years. Ice buckets, and you'll see in the dining room more Luc Linnell. We have some knife rests that are from the first class cabin in the Normandy. Well, the house developed a lot from our previous residence. We had a lot of furniture from there, but I would say overall the style is what is known as Swamp Palazzo style. And Rosemary James is a decorator and a very dear friend of ours who helped us through my residence in the French Quarter and other houses. And Swamp Palazzo style is just a style that is characterized by exaggerated elegance and antique and new fabrics, continental furniture, and it's perfect for this subtropical climate. Patina is something that we live with in New Orleans. Hurricane after hurricane, you're going to have patina. There's no having a perfectly straight line or straight surface anywhere. So it just lends itself to Swamp Palazzo style.
Kind of a decadence in a good way. Okay, welcome to the library. This is a little entertaining room. The first thing I want to point out is, well, the beautiful bookcases were already here when we bought the house, which was fantastic. It's Louisiana cypress. They are magnificent, and I think the owners of the house in the 80s put these in, and they're worth keeping.
They were actually antique dealers. Blackamoor Antiques was the name of their shop. So they put in the bookcases, which are Louisiana cypress, and we also have this mantle that they put in, which is a nice neoclassical copper mantle that's pretty. So we had to figure out what are we going to do in this room, add more cypress. One decorator actually said we should paint the cypress beige, and then we can add some other bookcases. But I don't know, I came up with another idea. You want to?
Oh yeah, one thing I love here in the room, and it softens the room up, is the fabric on the walls. It's men's corduroy trousers, and it feels so good. Everybody wants to touch it whenever they're here. We have to kind of move their hand away, but it adds such a good dimension to the room. I really love it. Love the way it feels. I do touch it.
Well, I kind of, even though it's New Orleans, believe it or not, in the wintertime, it's a very damp, cold. I've had students at the hospital tell me Montana is warmer than New Orleans when it's really cold. And so I wanted a winter feel to a room, and I wanted this corduroy. I wanted a men's fabric on the wall. And then we got these shades here. These window blinds are made from tartan. I'm on the board of the National Trust of Scotland, and I love tartans. I'm plaid mad. And this is the Loch Ness tartan, and it seemed to look really good with the other turquoise and red elements of the room. So this is my grant of arms. I already showed you the needlepoint I did of them in the sitting room. And here's the actual grant signed by Queen Elizabeth II, Her late Majesty. And then this above is another set of arms that I had done. I was king of a Mardi Gras crew here. And so I wanted a set of arms with supporters, which are two babies up there because I'm an obstetrician. And the artist who did this is Andrew Jameson, who actually did King Charles and Queen Camilla's coronation invitations. So that's kind of neat.
I'm not nearly as grand. I don't have arms.
Well, actually you are, because we're married.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah, so I get to inherit all these fancy things he has. But I kind of like having some modern artwork. And the house has pretty much traditional stuff. But here we decided to throw in modern things. This is a Mississippi artist, I think, named Bucci. And
Andrew Bucci.
I love his stuff.
This is his art. He was studying in Chicago in the 1930s, and that's one of his very early pieces.
That one's so cool. That's 50s or 60s, I guess.
Yeah.
And then this big blue piece here is
This is by Paul Tarver, a New Orleans artist, and it's called Maui. And you know, I love the turquoise and the red in it.
Oh yeah, and then hold on, point out these, the falcons. This is a funny story. If you lift it up, it's like it weighs about the same as a lemon.
These look like really
Maybe
precious
less.
birds, but actually, you want to catch?
Yeah, yeah. They are. I know they're really light. They're
They
light
are really. They go on the outside of a house to scare other birds away. And I was dining in London with Nikki Haslam, and we were just walking down the street after dinner, and he found these in a hardware store shop, and he took two, and he sent me two, and he just said paint them, spray paint them white, and his are on the cover of his book.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's pretty funny. I didn't realize.
I think that pattern on pattern on pattern is something I love. If you look at the really great decorators like Elsie de Wolf and Mario Boada, who was a friend of mine, I mean, they were fearless when it came to patterns, and they view, something like an animal print, a tiger, a leopard, as a neutral. And usually they had stripes and chintzes, and we have tartan in here, and these are Suzanis. When we went to Turkey, I went with an empty suitcase, and Michael was like, "What's going on?" But, I got a lot of Suzanis. I just like textiles, I guess.
Yeah.
These came from my advisor in medical school. His name was Dr. Andrew France, and he was Dean of Admissions at Columbia for many, many years. And these were all from his estate that I was able to pick up. Now, they weren't covered in leopard velvet. Dr. France was a very traditional kind of guy and would probably roll over if he saw what's on them now. But
I think he'd be happy.
I think the leopard looks good.
And we love having his stuff in here too. It reminds us of him. He was just a pure gentleman, a great guy.
These are interesting too. These are, let me get to this secretary. These are from Turkey, and these are actually beaded. I love anything beaded because of love of surgery and needlepoint, but these are actually Islamic circumcision hats. Boys are circumcised at age 6. So I picked up a lot of these over in Istanbul when we were there. So, I guess a lot of our style at our house you could call grand tour, because we're kind of always perpetually on a grand tour looking for travel, education. It's a great way to get educated, but also the souvenirs. The souvenirs are wonderful. So this bust, I got many things from the auction of the estate of Keith Irvine, which was a decorator I knew in New York and admired, and this was from his estate, and I'll show you some things in the music room from his estate too. But he loved these neoclassical gods and goddesses, and we picked up several of those. This is more of the Loch Ness tartan and our arms here, and this was done by Sandra Murray. She's a dress designer in Scotland. I met her through the National Trust of Scotland. And actually, this circles back to Sir Elton John, because he uses the same embroiderer out of Paris. So these are a nice addition to the heraldic interest of the house.
Man.
I mean, I love everything about it. I love
So
the
do I.
dining room. The dining room is the probably center of activity because we entertain a lot. But I like the music room because we use that every day, practicing, entertaining guests there.
I like the room we're in right now. This is my favorite because even on a dark, cloudy, stormy day, it always seems to be sunny and bright. I love it in here. And also we have a library that's really comfortable. It's a cozy place, and I like to just plop down on that big, comfortable couch. All right, so this is the music room. For me, kind of an opulent room. It's not quite as casual, but the piano bench is nice and comfy, and we have to sit there a lot just to study music and learn our pieces. In fact, we had somebody here. Both of us, admittedly, are suckers for malaprops. And because look, I'm terrible at them too. I'll say something wrong and everybody laughs at me. I think, well, what's the right expression? Well, we had somebody here 2 weeks ago, really sweet lady, and she came into the room and she said, I just love how it's traditional and histrionic. And I thought, okay, I get it. I know what she means. But
it can be histrionic.
It would be something I'd say, I'm sure. Anyway, I do love the room. It's beautiful. I love the green color. And also I like the bits of gold in here. At first, Quinn was going to put this gold, and I thought, oh, it's going to look sort of like Caesar's Palace. But no, I think it is absolutely beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I think well, it's another Swamp Palazzo
For sure.
room, gilded molding. The chandelier's interesting. It's Swedish, and it came from the estate of a San Francisco decorator, Anthony Hale. And I think another good thing about the music room is the sconces here. They belonged to Arturo Toscanini, the great conductor. And then we have other musical interest things here, like composer busts, and this is George Gershwin. I've played Rhapsody in Blue a time or two with orchestras, and this is a restoration, a really beautiful restoration music stand. You can see the detail of the sun god there. And in this cabinet, this is a Louis XVI style cabinet, I have a collection of all the music boxes that I got as a child.
Some of them work, don't they?
They all work.
Oh. Or
Yeah, here's Beethoven and
playing for Elise. Or...
Haydn. These are from Austria. The wood carving is really nice. But my favorite one is this one. This is Schroeder. Schroeder with the little statue of Beethoven there. And it plays the Emperor Concerto. Another thing I like in this cabinet are the Blind Earl porcelain that I collect. And this is a Dr. Wall Blind Earl porcelain. And the legend has it that the 5th Earl of Coventry had a riding accident and fell off his horse and became blind. So you see this porcelain is raised, the stemware and the leaves, so that he could feel it. I guess it's like a Braille porcelain feature here. So, and I started collecting Blind Earl because my first name is Earl. I really hate the name, but it's a family name. It was a big race to see who was going to get the first boy to name them Earl Quinn, and I came in first. But oh, this is a portrait. Actually, this is where this music room was the living room of Walker Ronaldson, who willed me the portrait of Major General Robert Wilson in the other room. So, but this painting is the Viscountess Hitchingbrook, and she is from, it's the Earl of Sandwich's family. And I spent a year reading the diary of Samuel Pepys, and when this came up at auction, I just had to have it. So I like everything about it. It's a great restoration English portrait, and I think it looks good with this saffron yellow damask. This is Bergamo damask for people who are interested in textiles. So, and these are needlepoint pillows that I've done. This is the crown of Columbia, where I went to medical school. And
we do have a lot of chairs here, but for that very reason, we gather people around when we perform. Or we'll have somebody else, a violinist or another musician, performing here with us with the piano in the background. So it is a great room for music listening, of course.
A lot of the furniture in here was in our living room when we lived on State Street. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of Louis XVI furniture, which that's the influence of Rosemary James, who was our decorator back then. Mm-hmm. And here's another needlepoint piece that I just finished. Well, the finisher just finished. And I designed this bell pull for the music room. This is a lyre up here, which is a musical symbol. And for those of you who played piano and violin and sang, you will recognize the G. Schirmer edition. And it always has this laurel leaf. So I repeated this laurel leaf here. And then here's an H for Harold, a P for Peeper. And there's that Earl's cornet. So you can always find a way to have fun with Earl if you have that as a name. Well, the piano is a Baldwin Grand, and my teachers in New York, when I was making a Carnegie Hall debut, had an absolute fit when they heard I had an upright that I had been working with them on for years. So they used their influence with the Baldwin Company. I think if you're a student of a Baldwin artist, then you get a discount. So I got this in 1997, which, well, yeah, when I made my Carnegie Hall debut. And the Keyboard Acceptance Corporation, I think it's called, in Iowa. Thanks to them, I mean, you make car payments in order to pay these pianos off, but now it's paid off. But we have a fun feature. Why don't you tell them about it?
I want to show you this. I know we've done a lot of name dropping today, so get a net because this is major name dropping. We have all these pianists. You came up with the idea to do this, to get, we're members of an organization here that has mostly chamber music, but we get one pianist a year. And we try to get a pretty big, famous pianist. And so we always do the cocktail party after the performance for selfish reasons, so they can come and sign our piano. Anne-Marie McDermott, we have Garrick Olson, and we have Angela Hewitt. In the piano world, big names. Anyway, they all come.
And our piano teachers.
Yeah, all our
Their
teachers.
names are in there too.
Yes, for sure. John O'Connor. Anyway, we love it. It gives a little nice touch to this piano harp.
This is another thing, that another treasure I got from the estate of Keith Irvine. I think this was in his bedroom, but this is a 18th century French aristocrat, and he's wearing a crown left over from an old Mardi Gras. And then this is a faux marble column that the two came together. So he kind of watches over the performances here in the Louis XVI music room. Yeah, this is a needlework in progress. So I've done the base. Now it has to be upholstered, but it'll eventually look like this. And again, it's a musical lyre, which is being in the music room. It's an appropriate piece for that. So this is up and coming.
All right, now for probably the most used room, don't you think, in the house? Also one of my favorites, the dining room. We'll go this way. All right, welcome to the dining room. I love this room. I'll mention something really quickly about this house. As I think we told you before, it was a side-by-side duplex. So imagine there's a wall going right through the middle of this room, and each apartment had these beautiful, arched windows. And it was sad when we thought, one architect said, "Oh, just keep it and make it 2 rooms," and that sort of thing. And we thought, this is so sad not to have these 2 beautiful arched windows facing each other and mirroring each other. So we took down the wall, put a supporting beam, and created one big dining room, and no regrets on this. This has been just a fun room, filled with good dinner parties and a lot of entertainment.
At the time that we were doing the house, Mario Boada was still alive, and I asked him to give me some advice on color. And I love apricot colors, but he just told me, get a cantaloupe, cut it in half, and show it to the painter. So we had a decorative painter do this cantaloupe finish, and it's very flattering to everybody's skin. One of the worst dining experiences I ever had in a private home, someone had a high gloss lacquered cobalt blue dining room, and I was young back then, and I saw veins in my head that were not in the anatomy book when I was in medical school. So that's not a very flattering color. I think that pinks and apricots and cantaloupe colors are better by candlelight. So
yeah,
that's how we got this color.
I love the color.
The chandelier is interesting, and it's been through a lot. It's a Swedish chandelier, and it went through Katrina and was across the room from that. And then one day I got a telephone call. I was getting ready to go into the operating room for a case, and the burglar company called, and they said, "We see some activity in your dining room." So I went to the dining room, but even before I got to the dining room, there was water pouring out of the front door of the house, and a commode had cracked, and we had just a huge flood. And so this chandelier survived the flood, and this table survived it too, although it needs to be refinished again because it's so scratched up and waxed up from candles. But we use it all the time. Mm-hmm. And today it's got a tablecloth. Initially, we were going to just use this Ecot tablecloth, but it is hot as the hinges of Hades right now in New Orleans. And so I said, we better cool this down because, when people are getting together, all they want to talk about is how hot it is. So we put this kind of spring green linen tablecloth on top with the napkins, and I think it's cooler now than it would be if it were all in the orange family. And the china is interesting. Here are the arms again, the 232 with the stork, and this is by Decour. So, and actually it says the armorial bearings of Earl Quin Pieper and the year. So Decour made this service. Most people know them just, for the wallpaper, but they will do an armorial service. And the armorial theme continues with the glassware. This is William Yoward glass that we had etched with the crest, and then here's a silver goblet with the crest. And the silverware has the crest. This is James Robinson, the Triffid pattern, one of the older patterns. The pattern back in the time when was created, you would go to a gun shop for the knife and then a cutlery place for the spoons and the forks. And then we mentioned Luc Linnell in the bar. These are from the Normandy first class cabin. These are little knife rests, and at each place there's a different little animal. This is a lion, and I think I have a peacock at my place.
We always have a lot of candles because the electricity goes off, and especially during a storm, it goes off like that, and the candles are really good.
One of the funnest dinner parties that you can have in New Orleans is a hurricane potluck dinner, and that's, you're going to lose everything in the freezer, so everybody pulls everything out of the freezer. Christmas dressing, I mean, stuff from almost a whole year, and you eat it even if it's in the dark by candlelight. It can be kind of nice, provided your house isn't blowing away.
Bring your best from the freezer, and we all sit around and eat it because it's going to go bad anyway. When we have dinner parties here, we always like to put a place card because invariably everybody stands around, where do you want me? So these things are, I think they're attractive, they're kind of fun, and also they are pretty practical.
Yeah, and they keep a dinner warm. I mean, there's nothing worse coming in the dining room with all these people standing around, where do you want me to sit? It's right here, and if you're interested in a hot first course, you better sit down.
And after entertaining enough, we kind of realized, at least this is for me, I realized that the best thing to do is to have everybody in the other room having fun, having a drink, go into the kitchen and just pull it out. So I never make stuff where I have to saute or do all this work in the kitchen where people are standing around watching me. I have everything all ready to go. You pull it out of the oven, we'll show you later in the kitchen. We set up the buffet on the kitchen counter. People grab their plates and that's it. It's the best way to do it. I don't want to have people watching me cook and then probably giving me instructions, second guessing everything I'm doing. The dining room table has an interesting story. We have the New Orleans Museum of Art, and each year they have something called the Odyssey Ball, which always has a silent auction. And we needed a dining room table for this house, and Quinn ended up going to the auction bidding on it. No one was there bidding on a walnut dining room table, and you got it for
walnut
steal.
directoire. Yeah, I got it for like a fourth of what it would be if it came in the store. So
the antique store owner was not very happy when she found out what it went for, but we got a good deal on it.
These are ice cream pails, ice pails. These are Coalport, about 1810, 1820. And we really use these. You put ice in the bottom, and you can put your ice cream here, and then the top has ice cream too. And we've illustrated how to use these in our book. We make homemade ice cream, vanilla, peach, strawberry, and then you can put ice up here. So I got these from Bardeth. Stephen Wolf has been advising me on china and porcelain for many, many decades. So, and this is a little interesting for people who are love England. This is the Queen's Silver Jubilee. This is the first time I went to England. So here is a wine coaster. This is from the Queen's Silver Jubilee, 1977. And then from the Golden Jubilee, I have these salt and pepper. These are the crowns on the pillow.
We got to fill them up. We're having a party tonight.
Yeah, you were actually seeing us getting ready for the party, for the dinner party tonight. So, and if you come in the kitchen, you can see how we prepare for a dinner party. Okay, so whenever we're preparing a dinner, these are menu cards that we use. And again, here's the stork. And actually, here's the stork that's holding the card. And, you know, they're elegant and they're formal, but actually they make having a dinner party foolproof because you don't forget things. I mean, we've had dinner parties before where we forgot to bring something out of the oven and people went home. So this tells you what we're having tonight, watermelon gazpacho, which we'll put in the tureen over here. Everything is laid out so there's no panic at the last minute when people are walking through the door. And then we'll have a West Indies salad. Shrimp remoulade will go in this clam. This clam is fun. I got this at Au Bain Marie in Paris and packed it in my suitcase. What else are we having? Prosciutto, wrapped asparagus, that'll go here. And rice, an almond rice will go here. And we always lay out a bunch of utensils in case something goes wrong. Here's a bread basket. Again, it's all ready to go. And dinner's not for another six or 7 hours. So.
Got a while. We have to have a little bit of color in this white room, and so we have a pistachio colored ceiling, and then we kind of use green things, green glass.
Here's a green lantern, actually. This is a Portuguese lantern from Mac Maison that we got up the street.
Uh-huh. And then one good thing I like about our garden is we can clip a lot of stuff. We can clip palmetto leaves, ginger, and here, banana stalk just fell over. It was so heavy, and that you can use it for decoration. And then I hope they ripen and we can make banana bread or something with it because they are edible. They're good bananas.
Now, if you'd like to follow me, I'll show you where we collapse upstairs after a dinner party.
Okay, we've got the guest bedroom. What do you call it? You call it the
Well, the Windsor
room
because the bed hangings are Queen Victoria's summer portieres from Windsor Castle. You see Windsor Castle and the VR Queen Victoria. And I got them, I think I got them on eBay. And I have a wonderful woman who's a seamstress on the other side of the Mississippi River who took them. And she was thrilled to have this as a project, but I mean, they were really tattered in places, so she carefully folded them without damaging the integrity of the fabric. So just to expose the best parts of the summer portiere. So it makes bed hangings. And then I had inspiration from John Fowler in his hunting lodge for these pelmets and curtains. And actually the curtains over the windows have a Nikki Haslam fabric, and this blind, summer blind, well, blinds that comes in different colorways were associated with the pelmet and the hangings in John Fowler's hunting lodge as well. So that was a nice part about fitting up this room. And most of the things in this room have to do with our love of England and Oxford. These are some gowns of Oxford students and Oxford dons. I spent 3 years at Oxford getting my degrees. And then also there's a lot of royal family memorabilia, Queen Victoria plates and commemorative mugs. And then I have a little collection of toy soldiers. These are you can see the gilded coaches in there. That's Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and George VI. And this is Queen Elizabeth. And here's another gilded carriage and coaches. I don't know. There's all kinds of little trinkets here. Here's actually Dr. Freud and his sofa. Here's Babar, and here is the Hound of the Baskervilles. All the characters: Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson and the Hound.
I think you do most of that stuff. And,
no, but Michael keeps me in line. Michael's a good editor.
Yeah. And he always tells me, I've learned so much about furniture. I had no idea who Louis XVI had style. Had a different period style than 15th. And that makes me laugh because this is a French piece in this big English room. And it's a vitrine, right?
Yeah, vitrine.
And this was another fundraiser where you got this. And we have this friend who said, well, that looks like a French popcorn maker. I had to laugh at that. That was the best. Is that what?
So it's, we teasingly among the two of us refer to it as the Louis XVI popcorn maker, but
Yeah.
it's a vitrine. This is another decoupage project. This is it's Victoria. Since this is a Victoria bedroom, I found these Victoria paper dolls. So here's Queen Victoria with all her little outfits. And I did this damask stencil. And then I love using stamps also to decoupage with. So these are Queen Elizabeth stamps on the inside.
She wasn't beheaded, I'm afraid.
Okay, welcome to my bedroom. This is a cozy bedroom that I like to use particularly after a tough night at labor and delivery. And as far as the construction is concerned, I eliminated a window that was here so it could be a little darker during the day if I have to sleep during the day, which I do from time to time. And these are my eye masks that I can wear so that the sun coming from this side is which sun?
Actually, you get the north, I get the south.
Yeah.
That's not
So
as harsh.
it's a little darker, which I need if I need to catch up on some rest. But this is a neoclassical bedroom. I guess it's kind of my grand tour fantasy. A lot of intaglios are here that I've collected over many, many years. Some of them are really nice, really fine, and others are, for instance, like these. This is one of my favorite. This is just a kitchen magnet of the Trevi fountain, which I think is a scream. And these are, I had the contractor do these closets on either side of the bed. This is kind of an imitation of the Duchess of Windsor's bedroom in Paris, where she had closets on either side of her bed with the bed recessed. And these open. This took a lot of work with the contractor to get him to do what I wanted. But anyway, these are nice closets for, you know, suits, and then on the other side for black tie stuff. This is a screen that was from Rosemary James in my French Quarter apartment many moons ago. And it's based on a Renaissance lace, actually, that is stenciled on here, and then the finish is gilded. And then these are just collections of Venetian masks. New Orleans is a carnival city, much like Venice, and so we have our share of Venetian masks. This is a really good example of a artisan in the French Quarter who, you know, has sadly passed on, but, you know, what a great artisan he was. This is a neoclassical burled cabinet here with ormolu mounts, caryatids, and other swags and flourishes, and it's my cabinet of curiosities, I guess. It has a lot of shells that I've collected over the years, and books and different biblio that I like. Again, a lot of things that I've collected over the years, you know, family pictures of Michael and me. And this wall here has about, I think one time I figured out it has 5 centuries of art. The top is the oldest. Those are 17th century friezes of putti. And this is another old painting. This is 18th century putti. Usually putti that are behaving badly are the ones that interest me. And then it also has some drawings, etchings, more intaglios, just more of the grand tour sort of things.
Okay, I know Quinn talked a lot about the interiors of the house because that is his expertise, but my favorite parts are outside, and I'm going to show you my palm garden. This is what I wanted. I was obsessed with palms, and I wanted to have a variety of them, and I got what I wanted. Let me show you. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Champagne, why not? Homeworthy, you can't feel the heat and humidity right now, unfortunately. I'm sorry you can't feel it, to know what we suffer through in the summer in New Orleans. But with the heat and humidity grow palm trees, and I love the variety. We have windmill palms, we have rufous palms, typical Louisiana South palmetto trees. We've got Queen Anne palms and monstera going on, and we have banana trees. And the best thing about banana trees is it really does grow bananas. The stalk growing right there over the bamboo.
Gladiator was about 800 pounds and kept sinking, so we had to build this like little folly to support it. And because we live on a swamp and soft earth, it's not surprising that it kept falling. So that actually has a foundation, and the Gladiator is in a new, happy place, which he enjoys.
We sit out here October, November, February, March, April, May. All pretty good then. It's just the heat, the summer. It's pretty bad. Home to me is a place where we can have friends over, and a place where we can just watch TV, chat, have a drink, and where everyone feels relaxed. I mean, we do entertain kind of formally, which I think is fun, and people enjoy getting dressed up once in a while and sitting down to a nice dinner, and they always seem to have a good time. No one minds putting on a blazer unless our AC is not working too well, which happened 2 weeks ago, and it was no fun. No blazers that night.
Yeah, I guess for me, home is a refuge and a cocoon. You know, it's a nice place to wake up and a nice place to return at the end of a busy day. It's very comfortably situated, and I was reading the letters that Chopin wrote because I learned Chopin Concerto No. 1, and he said at one point, "I'm going to create a new world for myself." And he was probably referring to his music, but he was pretty fastidious about his home surroundings and environment as well. So I think that it's about creating a world for yourself.
Hey, Homeworthy! I'm Nina. Come on in. Welcome to my home in Atlanta, Georgia. Hey there, I'm Nina Long, and I'm an interior designer in Atlanta, Georgia. I live in this house with my husband, Taylor Long, and our sweet little son, Collier Long. And Collier is actually a old Atlanta name, so it's kind of special that we named him after that. So he'll forever be kind of tied to this house because we do live in Collier Hills. So that's really, so we could basically never leave. I've always been an artistic person. I was always drawing and painting at a young age. When I was a little girl, we lived in Connecticut and we had a lot of woods, and I remember I would make little floor plans in the woods with string and kind of set up rooms and say this was the kitchen and this was the family room, and I would like make floor plans with string and tie it from tree to tree, which is a little bit unusual, but it started at a young age for me. I truly enjoy it. It doesn't feel like a job, to be honest with you. I love it. We have lived in this house for about 3 years now, and what I really love about the house is that it's old. I love an old house. This house was built in 1938, and what really appealed to us was basically just the aesthetics of this house. It's everything that I love. It has the charm of an old house, you know, which new houses nowadays they just don't have anymore. So for my husband and I, it was like super important that we were only looking for old houses. We love the windows, the architecture, a lot of the creaks in the floor, a lot of those little quirky things about an old house that some people may not like, we actually love. It just has so much character that you just simply can't find in a new house nowadays. So we've lived here for, like I said, about 3 years, and when we bought the house, it had great bones, but it needed a lot of work. So it was definitely something we knew we were coming into a project, which we actually really enjoy. Maybe not so much during the renovation process, but we really like being able to make a house ours. And so, you know, me being an interior designer, of course, I did really enjoy it. And I'm exposed to so much. So I do have a hard time when it comes to decorating my own house. It takes me probably a lot longer to make decisions, but I do eventually end up making, I think, the right choices. It might take me a long time, but my husband, he's really great because we kind of have the same taste, and so he's awesome because I can just show him something and I say, what do you think about this? And 9 out of 10 times he actually loves it, so I'm lucky there. Welcome to the foyer. This is a small space in our house, but it's also important because it's the first thing you see when you walk in the front door. This is one of my favorite pieces in the whole house, actually, and it took me forever to find this. I mean, literally years. And then I stumbled upon it at Scott's Antique Market here in Atlanta, which is, it's like a huge antique market that people from all over the Southeast come to, and it's once a month. And I found this piece, and I really fell in love with it. Of course, it's an antique, but I love like pieces that have little details, and I thought this was really cute because it had just little like inlay, and the scalloping here at the bottom is just so precious, and I love this piece because it was unique. And one of the other things that I am starting to collect besides oil paintings is these little boxes. These are chinoiserie boxes or tea caddies, and I just really love chinoiserie. So I thought this was a great place to display the collection. When you walk in the front door, you know, you see something again that I love. And then this is a antique French mirror. Has a scallop detail on it. Just it kind of, you know, looks good with the scalloping on this chest. And I have this sweet little antique alabaster lamp. So it's a pretty simple foyer, but you know, again, all the pieces have meaning, and I found these pieces, like most of the pieces in my house, you know, over time. It's not something that I feel like a house just shouldn't always be like instant. I don't believe in instant house, instant decorating. I think it's something that you collect over time. So that's the first thing when you see that you see when you walk in the door, and I love it. So when you walk in the front door, it's a kind of an open concept, you know. To the right, you see the living room, and then to the left, you have the dining room. And so we'll get to these rooms in a little bit. But it was important that in a home like this, where you have these doorways that open to each other, that it really flows. You know, that's very important to me. In my home and with my clients' homes, you know, you want cohesiveness. You want each room to have its own personality, but you know, when you're looking from one room to the other, it has to make sense. Welcome to our living room. This room is where we actually spend the most time, and it's one of my favorites in the whole house. I think when we originally were looking at this house, this is really what sold me on the house. And I think the reason I love this room so much is you could see all the decorative molding along the ceiling, and that is original. And we'll show you the fireplace here in a second, but that's also one of my favorite features. So this room was a challenge because of the layout. This is where we're spending so much time, so it was important to me that I can, you know, have space for everyone to move around, for little Collier to play, but also when we entertain, that there's enough seating for our friends and family. When I started decorating this room, honestly, the thing that I started off with was this fabric right here. The curtain fabric it's an English print. It's by Jasper. And that was my color palette for the whole room. I wanted something warm in here, so I really started off with that. I found these botanicals at an antique shop. The rug, it was a miracle to find a rug that worked in here because just the colors that I used are, I wouldn't say you see it as much as, you know, you see maybe some light blues that a lot of people use, or grays or creams. You know, this is a very warm room, and I definitely struggled when I was designing this room. You know, I could do everyone else's houses, but I can't do my own. So this took me forever, but I love this room so much. And then I want to share with you quickly, you have to see this mantle. It's my favorite thing, probably in the whole house. This is the original mantle from 1938, and I just love the detail on it. When we bought this house, the marble was actually cracked. It was in really bad shape. So We replaced this. I love the way an old, a honed soapstone looks. I think it's so classic. So I did this, added, an old fireplace screen, and, it's the focal point of the room. So I just love it so much. And if I was moving, I would try and take this thing off the wall, but I don't think I could. So originally, we did not have bookcases in this room, and I love, design books, architecture books, art books. So I needed a place where I could store my books. I had my friend who's a carpenter who does a lot of work for our clients come over and make these great bookshelves for me. Also, great place to hide, some kids' toys. So I just love a bookshelf in a living room. So we had a lot of fun designing those. Something really cool that I have to show you guys is this photograph right here. I actually used this in a show house recently, and I fell in love with it, and I just had to purchase it for myself. This is a Slim Aarons photograph, and you could see Mick Jagger, and that's Marianne Faithfull. She's a British singer. And that is Desmond Guinness from the Guinness family. And this photograph is from 1960, and it's taken at one of his castles in Ireland. So I thought it was really cool. I like having something in a room that, maybe you wouldn't expect. My husband plays music also. He is an amazing guitarist. So I thought this little nod to music was fun. So I kind of threw that in for him, and he loved it, of course. So surrounding this piece are some antique French oyster plates, and I'm obsessed with the colors in these. You don't really see that color a lot. A lot of the times with oyster plates, you might see white ones or pink ones or maybe dark brown. But I saw these, and they were definitely a little out of my budget, but I made the splurge, and I think I found just the perfect place for them. It's one of those things where, again, it's just something that you wouldn't normally maybe think to put in your living room on the wall, but I just think they add such a neat, decorative element, and they frame out that the photo really nice. So, of course, the colors are amazing, and it just worked with the blues and the browns and everything in this room. So I think they're perfect. So as I mentioned before, I like to collect things. I'm at a point in my life where, I can collect things that I like, and I'm always on the hunt for antique oil paintings. And I have a certain aesthetic that I look for when I'm on the hunt for antique oils. I'm not a huge fan of the pastoral scenes or still lives with people. I think I usually look for beautiful landscapes. Traditionally, I'm looking for English oil paintings, maybe Italian oil paintings or French oil paintings, and I like them to be smaller, and I like to put them in groupings. And the frames don't have to be perfect. I think that, that's what makes them beautiful is the patina. So I love this little, I think this is actually a watercolor, and it fell off the wall once and the glass broke, and I'm like, whatever, I still love it, so I'm gonna hang it anyways. But this is a little watercolor. I think this is looks like a boating scene. And then, I have this little landscape over here. I have another, water scene, and then just a beautiful little landscape right there. And I just love gold frames, and I think they're just special, and each little one tells a story. So I'm always on the hunt for those. And of course, it's kind of, you have to be careful you don't overpay for these, but I'm always, on the hunt for them. And, sometimes in an antique shop, you might find a little tiny one like hidden in the back of something or on the ground, and usually those are the real treasures. Off of this room, I want to take you into the sunroom. This is kind of a spot that this is for me. This is almost like my room, and it's a special little place. Come check it out. So this is our sunroom, and when we first bought this house, this room looked totally different. It had black and white kind of linoleum floors in here, and the windows were they were all fogged and damaged. So we had to do a lot of work when we bought this house, especially in this room. I had to replace all the windows. But of course, as you can see, they are covered because I love the way a sheer kind of diffuses the light, and it makes you feel like you're almost in a plane and you're going through clouds. I don't know, there's something about this room that is just very calming to me. And this is a place where I come and kind of have some me time. I'll sit on this sofa and, you know, read sometimes, or if I'm doing some work, you know, I might bring my computer out here. And it's just a place where I like to sit and maybe also have coffee in the morning. I open the door and I let the air in. And I don't know, this is just a special little room. It took me, of course, a while to figure out what I was doing in here. I found this English botanical fabric, and that was kind of the starting point for the palette in here. And then, you know, of course, my husband thought I was crazy when I told him that I wanted to paint the entire thing one color. But we're really happy with how it turned out, and I love the blue. It kind of reminds me of like a pair of old jeans. That's by Farrow and Ball, and I love their colors. So I think it turned out really well. A funny story, this light fixture was actually here in the house when we bought it, and I really loved it so much, but it was white. So I went and got about 4 different color golds at Ace Hardware, and sat in the backyard and spray painted it, and I actually had a lot of fun doing it, and I think it turned out really well. And one of my favorite pieces, again, back to chinoiserie, is going to be this antique cabinet. It's actually a secretary, but I definitely use it for storage, but it's a beautiful piece. In our old house, it was in the living room, and it just fits so perfectly on this wall. And, you know, it stores just some little tchotchkes, I guess, that are, you know, meaningful for me, that I want enclosed somewhere where they're safe. And we have some old books. A funny thing is, I'm going to show you guys this book. These were given to us by Taylor's mom. And the funny thing is, every single book on the bottom says Collier. And I have no idea why or what that means, but that's my son's name. So I think that's really kind of a funny story. And of course, the blue was so pretty, so I had to have them. Welcome to our dining room. I love this room too. I'm kind of partial. I love all the rooms in our house, to be honest with you. But this one is extra special because of the wallpaper, of course. I knew I wanted to do a scenic mural in here. And one of my favorite wallpapers is a designer, it's Ixel. And Schumacher makes this paper, and I use it a lot in my jobs. They have beautiful, beautiful designs that are old scenic murals. And this one in particular is Italy, and I fell in love with it. I'm Italian, so again, that's a nod to something that has meaning to me and is special. I thought it was so beautiful. I had a lot of fun picking out the panels that were going to go in here, and what was going to go on each wall. And when my son was really little, and he was super tiny, I would hold him up and we would walk around this room and we would point to different things in the paper. And that was really sweet because he would point out trees and cows, and it's just kind of a funny story. So every time I come in here, I just kind of think about that little memory with him. So that's really special. So this is a great chandelier. It's actually a replica of kind of a French Parisian style. This one has the little glass, beads, and it also is iron. It's a gilded iron. And if you look up, you could see that beautiful original medallion that's also on the ceiling. So it's just a beautiful architectural detail, along with the molding that you can also see along the ceiling here, the crown molding. It just makes the room special. And I painted this room, one of my favorite greens by Farrow and Ball. This is one of those colors that you could honestly use everywhere and anywhere. It goes with anything, and it kind of changes based on what else you have in the room. And I've used this many times for clients, and I just was dying to use it for myself. And I just love the way that it looks with this wallpaper because there's so many beautiful greens in here. So I think it works really nicely. And so for the rug, this is an antique, one-of-a-kind rug. I wanted this to be a little more subtle since the wallpaper and paint is so strong. And it was tricky to find just the right, rug for in here, but I think we nailed it. I love the gold tones in here, and it just pulls out all this beautiful kind of ochre that you see in the paper. Those are actually a gift from a friend. I was hoping they were gonna hang on till today, and they, this might be the last day, but my friend sent those to me. So they're beautiful. It's actually from a French florist here in town who, funny enough, did our wedding flowers, and she didn't even know that. So I thought that was really sweet. I love doing flowers in here. This is a room that even though this is our dining room, we use this super informally. We don't have a breakfast room in this house. So, I sit in here all the time. I'll bring my computer. I do work here at this table. Little Collier, we put a booster seat here, and he, eats at the table with us. I don't want our house to feel like it's so precious. I want you to feel like you could sit at the table, use your dining room. So even though it maybe feels, it has an element of dressiness to it, it's a place where, we use this. When we have friends over, we will sit here and have pizza. So, we don't have to do a 4-course dinner in the dining room. It's a place that you could sit with friends and have pizza, or, with your child in the morning and have a bowl of cereal. So, it's somewhere that makes me really happy. I look at this wallpaper every day, and I just love it so much. It just really makes me happy. So I think that's what's important in a home for sure. The style of this house, I would say, is a traditional Georgian-style house. It kind of has an English sensibility. A lot of the architecture comes from, a traditional English style. It has the brick exterior, which, I love. And in the front, one of the things that just really made me fall in love was the treillage design in the front over the porch. It's really charming, and it has this beautiful old metal roof, and it's just really sweet and very unique. And so many people have told me that they've driven by this house so many times, and they just love how it looks from the street. And it kind of, I don't know, it's a popular house. It's kind of well known. The area of town that we live in is a historic part of Atlanta, and there's a lot of history on this street and kind of in the neighborhood surrounding it. So it just fits perfectly in with all the sweet little houses on this road, which are traditional. I would say the area is very traditional, in Atlanta. There's a lot of old, beautiful neighborhoods, so we really love it here. Okay, this is our kitchen. When we bought this house several years ago, this kitchen looked way different. You wouldn't even recognize it. It had brick floors, and the cabinetry was like a mint green, and the refrigerator was over there, the stove was over there, there was, this was a wall, so it was very tight, and it was just not gonna work for us. So when we bought this house, we knew immediately that this kitchen we would have to tackle. I had a lot of fun doing this kitchen, and I think it really kind of changes the whole house. Again, I wanted kind of an English, sensibility as far as the aesthetic in this kitchen. Just really clean. I like the kitchen to be, a clean area, not too much clutter. And, this is just perfect. An interesting thing about this kitchen is that's the original window from 1938. Had to keep it. I love opening the windows because I burn things a lot. So that was important that the windows open in here. They are old windows, and sometimes you don't have, you know, a lot of the times windows are painted shut. So it was really important to us that we had these, you know, functional. Love this faucet. This is by Waterworks. I knew 100% I was doing brass. I love brass. It's kind of my go-to with plumbing all the time. So I knew for sure that we were doing a beautiful brass faucet in here. And again, it's one of those things like the wallpaper in my dining room that I have that I look at every single day and I just love. I also knew I wanted marble in here. And, you know, marble is one of those things where you either love it or hate it. And for me, I love it. This is an old house. I think it makes sense to have marble. It's more traditional. And yes, you know, it can stain. And a lot of people are like, I can't believe you did marble in your kitchen. And I was like, well, you know, I love it. And it's beautiful. It's a natural material. And if I get a little ring on it or some wine, well, you know, I'm just living in my house. And so I'm okay with that. And we had to do this little tiny island here because I definitely needed an island in this kitchen. And I thought this was really sweet. I did some research with like English kitchens, and I would see a very simple island on legs. And I thought that was perfect for this kitchen and for this space. When we have friends over and we have dinner parties or we're entertaining, a lot of the times I set up food on this island, and a lot of people gather in here. So yes, because it is open to our dining room, you have, you know, a flow going back and forth, which is actually pretty convenient. If I'm in here at the sink, you know, prepping things, the dining room's right there. So it's actually kind of convenient. If I'm making breakfast for Collier, he can be sitting at the table and I can keep an eye on him. So it actually works out really well. And, you know, that's just one of the things with an old historic home, especially, you know, here in Atlanta. They are a little more compact, I guess you could say. So as much as I would love a gigantic kitchen, this one is perfect, less cleaning. And it just, you know, it does the job. And renovating it definitely makes it feel bigger and brighter. Because it is a small space, so it's important that I, you know, keep it, you know, pretty clutter-free in here. And I'm one of those people that I don't really, I mean, I like to collect things, but I don't like clutter. So, you know, it's kind of like organized chaos with my collections. But then when it comes to the kitchen, you know, I can't stand having like, you know, baby bottles on the counter and, you know, just utensils everywhere. And my husband's kind of the same way. I guess maybe we have OCD a little bit, so it works well. This is our main powder room, and this room it's really cute. You know, the wallpaper adds a little element of design that I love pattern, love wallpaper. And I put an antique mirror in here. We have a pedestal sink, again with some Waterworks brass. The floor in here is marble. We added that. Everything in this room is new, but I like it to look like it's always been here, if that makes sense. Originally, this whole bathroom was green when we bought the house, and it had black and white linoleum floors, I believe. And it just was not, I was not having it. So we gutted this bathroom, and you know, everybody that comes over sees this room, so I wanted it to be special, and I think it feels like a little jewel box. I'm not a huge monogrammer. It's really big in the South. It's not really me, but I think if you're going to do a little bit of monogramming, a great place to do it is like in your powder room. So I did bite the bullet and do a little monogram in here, and I think it's really cute. So now I'm gonna take you upstairs and let's go check out the 3 bedrooms. The first bedroom we have here is my son's room. This is Collier's room. So this is my son's room, Collier. I had so much fun designing this room for him. The starting point for this room was, of course, this drapery. This is called India Story, and it's so adorable. It has just kind of like little Indian palaces and tigers and animals and flowers, and you know, we just kind of at night go through and look at this and point to all the little animals and say goodnight to everybody. And I just knew that this would be really fun for him and something that he could grow into, I guess. You know, that was important. I didn't start with, you know, a super baby room for him that was just blue and white, and this is something that he could grow into, so that was important for me. Collier has probably the nicest rug in the entire house. I love this rug. This is an antique rug by Moetar. It's from Moetar here in Atlanta. One of my favorite rug sources, and the color was absolutely perfect. And I knew that he could sit on this and play, and obviously if it gets stained, you're not gonna see it. And this is something that he would probably have his whole life. We did a cute little stripe in here, the wallpaper, and I found this neat little wicker light for him. This painting right here is actually kind of special. This is by Casey Hughes. She's an artist out of Nashville, and I've worked with her before. She does really awesome art, and before Collier was born, I worked with her, and she commissioned this piece for me. I love working with artists because, you know, they make you exactly what you want, and it's something that nobody else is gonna have. So again, this is a special piece for Collier, and I'm gonna, you know, give it to him one day, and so he'll have that forever. And just remember, you know, the love I put into this room and the time I took to just make him, you know, feel special. And so I love this piece. Welcome to our guest bedroom. What's special about this room is this was actually the furniture that my husband and I had when we first got together. This was our first bedroom, and I love it so much. Obviously, it's special to us. I had to keep it, and I still love it. It's really fun. These Bunny Williams lamps, you know, obviously these are really cool. The blues were perfect in here. These draperies we had in our old home, and I definitely had to reuse them. So I had them reworked to fit this house because I loved them so much and I just had to use them. And there's just a lot of things in this room that maybe we've had a little bit longer than others. Love this bedspread. I found this on an antiquing trip. I think I was up in New York and I found this. This is from India. And again, little oil painting. You know, I love this little one. I didn't want the guest bedroom to feel too crowded and cluttered. It's not the biggest guest bedroom, so it was important that I use the space really wisely in here. But everybody seems to love this room when they stay here. It has just good light, it has 3 windows, and it's really comfy. So that was important to me, that guests feel that they could relax in here and that they feel comfortable and welcome. Something that I wanted to point out, you know, I love to collect things, and one of the things that I'm going to start collecting is clocks. This is an old little marble clock. This was given to me by actually my partner, my design partner. He has the most massive collection of clocks I've ever seen in my life. And this one is really beautiful. It's white marble and it's an antique. So this was kind of like the start of something. Again, this is a oil painting. It's old. And one important thing about oil paintings is you always want to make sure that they are old. This one says it's from 1918. And I always look at the back of oil paintings because you don't want to buy a replica. So you want to make sure that the back is original and that it's original framing. If it's signed, you know, that's a bonus if there's information on it. I always try and keep the tags on everything so that I remember where I got it, where it's from, and even like how much I paid for it. I try and keep all of that intact, or at least keep it in a little file when I buy all my art. I think my house is really warm and cozy. It's not a grand house, but I think that it has a lot of charm to it, and I'm comfortable in this house. You know, when I come home from work, I love to just plop down on the sofa or sit down on the floor and play with my little boy, and I like to have friends over. We entertain, and it's a comfortable home, you know, and it's a good reflection of really who we are. We're not following trends. We're not trying to impress anybody. It's just really what we like and what speaks to us. And last but not least is our bedroom. So this room was, again, a challenge because we had little to no closet space. We love this room, but one thing is, again, it was tight. So I had to think fast. What are we going to do to add some closet space to this room? We also decided to upgrade the master bathroom. So we kind of had to do that at the same time. Took some space out of the closet and made it part of the bathroom. And in turn, I decided to add these, I guess you could call them wardrobes, these closets, and they're used a lot in Europe because they have the same issue with space kind of that we have in the smaller old homes here, where there's just not a lot of closet space. So we had these custom made, and I wanted them to go all the way up to the ceiling, and there's a ton of storage in them. This is my side, and Taylor's side is over there, but this really solves the problem for us. And as you can imagine, they're so large that when they were made, the contractor actually could not get them up the stairs because they were so long, and he had to take them back to the shop and take them apart. Of course, I was almost in tears over that, but we had to go to plan B and kind of remake these a little bit because they were so tall we couldn't even get them up the stairs. But that being said, it was worth it, and I love them so much. They're very functional. One of my favorite things about our bedroom is the canopy, and when I presented this idea to my husband, of course, he was like, I'm not gonna sleep in that at night. And I said, well, you're gonna love it. It's gonna feel like we're, you know, at a hotel. It's gonna feel like we're at the St. Regis. And, you know, I think that a hotel for me is just a place where I can always relax, and I wanted the bedroom to have that same kind of sanctuary feeling. So it's more kind of light and airy in here. You know, the blue I feel is very soothing. You know, it's always a great choice for a bedroom. And, you know, every time I lay in this bed, I just get a great night's sleep. It's quiet, and it kind of like, you know, cocoons around you. And yes, it is a little feminine for my husband, but he's learned to love it. So I could say that he definitely gets a good night's sleep in this bed. So another one of my favorite oil paintings is this one. I had to put this in the bedroom. I thought the blues and greens were so pretty. It's a gorgeous landscape. I found that at an antique market, of course, and it's just very soothing. I love the blue skies. It's just, I don't know, relaxing and perfect for a bedroom. And you know my love for all things chinoiserie. When I saw this desk, I bought it. I had nowhere to put it at the time, but I just knew that I would love it and make a space for it. So this is a neat little kind of vanity desk. I keep a lot of, you know, Christmas cards and letters in here, sweet little notes from my husband, and I have some, you know, special little things in here, and then a wedding photo. So this is just a sweet little area of our bedroom. I love the framing in front of the window here and the beautiful drapery, of course, with the blues and the ivories and the greens. It's just a special little space where I could sit down and, you know, if I need to take notes on something, you know, I have this desk. It's always great to have a little, you know, desk or a vanity in a bedroom. So I love this one, and so I had to make a space for it, and it was perfect right in here. This is our bathroom. When we first moved here, this bathroom was so tiny. It only had one sink. The toilet was over here, and that behind me where the shower is was actually our closet. Made some changes. We, you know, gutted this whole room. We added a beautiful marble floor, custom cabinetry, marble in the shower, and of course my favorite, brass faucets. These are from Waterworks, and I love how they are really simple, but they kind of have that vintage feel to them, which I think is really appropriate to the house. And you know, when I'm doing bathrooms, especially for me, this being an old house, it's important that the bathroom is classic. You know, I'm not looking for anything super trendy in the bathroom because we come and go. Let's say the bathroom's gonna stay here. It needs to be timeless. So it's really important that in a master bathroom that it's just classic. And so that's what we wanted to do in here. We have these little kind of vintage Ralph Lauren lights, just very simple. Medicine cabinets are a must in a bathroom of this size because I have a lot of products and I like to have extra storage. So I have everything in here and then plenty of space down here, drawers, cabinets, you know, they hold a lot of things. So it works out really perfect. Recently, I put up this grass cloth just to add a little texture. I don't have any artwork in here, and I kind of toy with that. Do I want to put something up? But then again, I just kind of like the bathroom to feel clean and just be like a functional place where, you know, we come in, get ready, and you know, you don't spend a whole lot of time in here because it is, you know, a smaller bathroom, but it works perfectly for the two of us, so it's all we need. I think a home is a place where you can be yourself, where you could be comfortable, where you could live and just feel safe and know that you could come there and just feel good when you're in that space and when you have those walls around you and you want to be there. We love our home. You know, we like to stay home. We like to be here. You know, our ideal Friday night is, you know, sitting on the sofa with sushi and some wine and watching, you know, a movie or something. And, you know, it's a great location. We have parks, you know, we like to spend a lot of time outside. So home is just somewhere that you want to be.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Michael.
I'm Thomas. Welcome to our home in Virginia. Please come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi, I'm Michael Devine, and I'm a textile designer.
And I'm Thomas Burak. I'm an interior designer.
And we're in our home in Orange, Virginia, which is in central Virginia, a land of rolling hills and horse farms. We ended up in Orange. We had been looking desperately for 2.5 years in northwestern Connecticut and Millbrook, New York. And after 2 years of an unsuccessful search, to say the least, one night I was on Zillow and I started on the Eastern Seaboard in Maine with our criteria, and I came down state by state, and I ran out of states at Maryland. And I thought, oh, well, I'd been to Virginia once for a book signing when my book came out, and it was wonderful. And I thought, well, let's see what's going on in Virginia. And there was a house in Virginia, in Orange, not this one, but another one that got us here. And that's what got us here. So the answer would be Zillow. So the architectural style of the house was actually designed by a well-known Charlottesville architect named Milton Grigg. And he had worked on Monticello at Williamsburg and had done a number of houses in sort of the 1950s, I think, to about the 70s. And this house was built in 1950. So it's very, it's a stone house. It's just a sort of Cape Cod style.
Welcome to our living room, which is painted a very dark gray, and the technique is lime wash, which gives the walls almost a suede-like finish. They're shaded. The color is called Caviar by Resource Paints. And I particularly like dark rooms at night. The walls seem to disappear. The colors jump from them at night. And we use a lot of candlelight in here also. And I think it gives a great mood to the room. All of the furniture came from previous our apartment in New York. And we'll start here with the banquette, which was in our dining room, which works perfectly in this corner of the room. And we chose this sort of rich gold and gray for the room so that it just has a richness to it. And these panels that I bought years ago at the flea market in Paris work perfectly and really kind of set the tone for the room. They were also used in our New York apartment in Gramercy. We have several things that are of interest. These are Fortuny fruits that I actually made myself. They're covered in Fortuny with vintage trim on a beautiful Italian tray table that we have. And over the years, we've collected many things like this that we purchased in Portugal. This came from Paris, and a lot of things that have a lot of meaning to us. A chair that I purchased in Italy. It's an Italian chair covered in a silk velvet. Particular interest in this room is this mirrored wall, which we actually inherited. And it's really 3 different panes that were all put together. And I think the original reason it was put in here was to give more reflection to the wall, or to the room, excuse me. But what we're looking at here is a collection of blue and white porcelains that we have collected over the years. Some of them actually were pieces that Michael collected before me and me before him. And the brackets that we used that we had some in Gramercy, we had some in the Country Place in Kinderhook, and just put all of the brackets up and to highlight all of the pieces. And some of them are vintage, some of them are newer pieces. And I particularly love the effect it gives, and particularly at night when you have the candles glowing and the chandelier and all the reflection in here just gives tremendous depth to the room. And I look at all of these pieces, and some of them are big and add drama, but I love particularly these little vases here that we did a grouping of 2 on each little bracket. They just have such a particular little charm about them versus just having the big pieces, which of course I love everything big and dramatic, but there's something wonderful about those 4 little vases. Of note in the room also is the mantle. The person that built the house collected a lot of salvage, and this came from a mansion in Richmond, which we think is really a spectacular piece, and the black and white tiles on the floor, and enhanced it with a beautiful French mirror that was bought in Paris years ago. These sconces that are sort of obstructed by the forsythia came from the DuPont mansion in Delaware. A collection of pillows that are varied. We have some Fortuny. We happen to have a particular love for Fortuny. This one is a vintage Fortuny pillow that was given to me by a friend, David Duncan, who's an antique dealer. And also, speaking of David Duncan, their Swedish chandelier came from his shop also. The chairs are covered in horsehair. It's an embroidery pattern, and when I designed this when I was creative director at Schumacher. So the fabric on here is from Schumacher. This is also a vintage Schumacher fabric that was in one of the collections I did for them. And we like a lot of antiques in mixing different styles. So we have Swedish. This particular piece is English, Victorian. It was actually the first piece of furniture I ever bought. This was even prior to Michael. I bought this at a sale and have had it ever since, wherever it's traveled with me. This is a Swedish desk. And we enhanced it with the hydrangeas, and I love doing these big arrangements. I think looking at the forsythia and looking at here, the things that are done in scale, that just have pizzazz to them, and these are hydrangeas that obviously have come from our property, and we just keep sticking them in there, and they dry beautifully, and from season to season we'll enhance it, add a couple more, or so forth. Throughout the room, which has a lot of formal furniture, we wanted to sort of tone it down with the rush on the floor, which gives it a little bit more casual country look. And this comes from a company called Rush House, and I really love the look of it. It just pulls everything down and makes it less complicated. We decorated this home to actually be our own personal style, very classic, traditional. We both love a lot of pattern, we love color, we love chintz, and we really made this very personal. We have many friends that come and love our home, and that's always a benefit. But I think anyone, and myself as a professional designer, feel you design your home to your own liking. We had many pieces of furniture that I'd collected over the years, and it all fit into this house beautifully. And all it did was we needed to do backgrounds and paint and wallpapering and so forth. And of course use a lot of Michael's fabrics in the house, which again give it such personal style.
But one of the great things about this house was it had been very well maintained over the years, so it really was what I call a paint and paper house. We didn't have to do massive renovations, which we had done both recently in New York and then also at our other country house up north. And that's just not our thing. We don't have a great fondness for tearing houses apart. It's great to do it for a client, but having lived through the horrors of the war twice, we didn't want to get involved in that again.
As you will notice, there are a lot of chairs in the room. Now I have a passion for chairs. I could have a room just full of them. And what we like about the chairs that are various sizes and feelings is that they can be moved. This can be, this is an easy chair to move if someone wants a conversation group here or if people want to add to there. And what I love about them is that they're different styles, they're different finishes. Here, this little child's chair that we picked up in an antique shop actually was upholstered in this fabric, oddly enough, and it had double welt, which is a no-no in our book. So I took off the double welt and applied a gimp to the chair. This was a vintage chair that we bought, and this happens to be a Schumacher fabric that I was responsible for when I was at Schumacher. It is a vintage. I just happened to have enough of it to cover this chair. And we love the collection of chairs. I think they sort of tell a story. Who sat in them? How was this made? How was this designed? I think the Italian chair is of particular interest because if you look at the front of the chair, it's all decorated with white and gold. And this more than likely would have been placed against a wall because if you notice, the back has no gold. It's just plain. There's no carving on the legs and the back and the inside. So this would have been typically placed against the back of the wall. And a lot of things were done like that. Gold gilded candlesticks had that same thing. This is not gilded in the back because they were used on the altar. You would not have seen the back. We're on our way to the dining room, but as we go through the entry to the house, which is rather small, but we think it has impact and it's kind of a work in progress. We feel like we want to do some other additional work on the walls. But of particular note in here is the tiger carpet that runs up the stairs from Patterson Flynn Martin. It's a done by a French mill. It's 39 inches in width, so it is a very vintage kind of carpet. And I upholstered the banisters with a linen velvet, which happens to be one of my favorite fabrics, and of course the silk tassels from Brunswick. I happen to adore tassels and any kind of trimming. I think if I had a dog, I'd probably trim it. But this floor, again, is the slate and marble that was put in by the person that built the house. And it gives you almost a sense of an 18th century French chateau. The chandelier is kind of fun. We felt the porcelain flowers with the wood basket gave the entry some character. And of particular note here is a painting that was given to us by a friend, and it's a painting of oranges, and of course we are in Orange, Virginia. So it has a great meaning to us, as does the friend, and of course the painting that she gave to us. My background is in interior design, and I have always loved doing interiors and so forth. I skewed away from that for a bit and was involved in doing furniture showrooms, which is basically still design. At one point, I was vice president and creative director for Schumacher Fabrics. So that related to the home, obviously. And since fabric and color are my passion, that was a wonderful point in my career. And then I bounced back to interior design, which I do love. I love doing it for myself and I love doing it for clients. And one of the greatest satisfactions of doing people's homes is when they tell you how much they love it, or they love a particular corner in their room that they spend their time in with their, reading a book and having a glass of wine.
I started my career in New York and went through the Bloomingdale's buying program and spent 5 years in New York, and then randomly on a lark got accepted to the Sorbonne and ended up at the Sorbonne for a year studying French and then another year at the École de Louvre. Came back to New York and serendipitously landed at Condé Nast as a party and style editor for 6.5 years, where I wrote two weekly columns for HFN magazine. And then I started my textile company, and we now work on interior design. And I wrote, and in the meantime, I also wrote a book for Rizzoli, An Invitation to the Garden, on entertaining in our garden in Kinderhook. Welcome to the dining room. This is one of our favorite rooms in the house. When we moved in, we thought we would do something rather unusual in that we only light the dining room with candlelight. So the chandelier is candles, and it takes about 22 candles for a dinner party, which makes us very grateful that we have IKEA's candles to use because the box of 50 is so inexpensive. We've set the table with various things we've collected, the salt cellars and the pepper shakers. The birds are all things that we've found along life's journey. The fabric is actually a fabric that I designed for my hand-printed textile collection, and it's called Orangerie. The dinnerware is a beautiful pattern called Charlotte, which is based on one of my fabric patterns, and it's hand painted in France by Marie Dage, and as is the Thomas dinner plate, which coordinates back to the Thomas fabric that we do for the collection. The napkins are really interesting in that they're the typical linen damask napkins that pretty much everybody has in their house or have inherited from their grandmothers, but we dyed them with Rit dye to give them a new lease on life. The flowers are all from the garden. When we were very fortunate in that we inherited a rather significant collection of historic daffodils. So we have a wealth of varieties of daffodils, and these are Euphorbia Caracus rufii that were also grow in the garden, and that's a great plant. It looks fantastic all year and is very generous and self-sows itself all over the place, which makes it a very welcome friend in the garden. The walls, when we moved in and saw the house, I thought, we were sort of debating about what we should do about the walls, and I had offhandedly told Thomas that I would paint the walls and do a mural. Well, it took a while to get the mural together, but I finally did this winter, so this was my winter project, which was rather a nice project because I'd be in here every morning painting while I had the light with a fire going and a cup of tea, and the consoles are a pair. We had them in our Gramercy apartment. Thomas had found them on a trip to Italy years ago, so we're very happy to have found a new place for them in the house. And the color is Bougainvillea by Resource Paint. It's a really striking color, and it's a color that I think works very well in the room with the floor and the marble mantle. The mantle is from a historic house in Richmond. It was salvage, as is the floor. The wall sconces are from Nerman Weeks. We had these in our dining room in Gramercy Park, as is the cobalt mirror is an antique that Thomas found on a trip, I believe, to Sweden. These we found together last summer in France when we were at Porte de Valme flea market. We fell upon those and just had to have them. And then on the table we also have vases from our travels. The small vases with the daffodils are from Petersham's in Richmond, which is a fantastic nursery. If you ever happen to be in Richmond, England, I highly recommend a day trip out there to see that, and maybe Ham House, which is not too far away. And then I also recommend a lunch at their Michelin star restaurant, which was a real treat. A friend of ours took us there when we were visiting a few years ago. When we're entertaining, I'm often envious of Thomas because since I cook, I am obviously get to spend more time in the kitchen than he does, and he gets to spend the time with the guests. When we moved into the house, the original dining room was the library because they had added on the kitchen in the early 2000s. But when we moved in, we decided we wanted to make this the dining room. And it's a beautiful room. We love this room. But the issue happens to be that the dining room is quite a distance from the kitchen. So I get to hear all the laughter while I'm in the kitchen getting everything ready to bring out. And I get a little, like I said, I get a little bit jealous of Thomas for that, for having that privilege. So speaking of the kitchen, let me show you just how far it is to the kitchen. And now we're walking through the hyphen, which connects the older part of the house with the relatively newer part of the house. And this is a great space because it transitions. We used one of my wallpapers called Millbrook on the walls, which I had designed with the idea for another house that we ended up obviously not buying. The curtains were ones that I designed and used a design from John Fowler, from Colfax and Fowler, because we wanted to have that sort of John Fowler, Nancy Lancaster reference in our house in Virginia, since she's from Charlottesville. The collection in the corner cabinets, which were part of the house when we bought it, is Mulberry, and that's a collection that Thomas had acquired over the course of his travels follow me and let's go to the kitchen. I think the soul of a house, it comes from the owners of the house and their collections and their personalities and their imprint on the rooms and how they arrange a table, how they arrange the flowers, whatever that may be, as whatever they think is their vision. That's what gives the house the character and that sort of joie de vivre.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I think that the way we approach everything when we're just even ourselves, having dinner by candlelight, and it's what our passion is. Our passion is perfection, which can sometimes be very daunting.
Well, my passion isn't perfection. No one's ever accused me of that.
No, that's true. That would be my category.
That's your circus, not mine.
Yes, when Michael leaves the room, I go in after him and fluff a little bit more. But yes, anyway, one of us has a passion.
It's a very
but you
good.
do all the cooking.
It's yin yang, And we have separate domains. I think that's been the secret in the sauce for the last 25 years. Here we are in the kitchen. This was added in the early 2000s, and it's got amazing light because of the 3 skylights. And then also the views out onto the garden are pretty wonderful too. It makes it a very inviting, airy, light room. When we moved in, I realized that we really didn't have enough storage for our pots and pans. So I found this fantastic rack, and it's the most amazing thing because I can see exactly which pot and pan and where they are, and it makes life a lot easier than searching for them in the bottom of a cabinet. We have part of our glassware collection. Since we do a lot of entertaining, we have a lot of glasses. This is the tea and coffee bar that we have set up, and we use that every day, all day long. The tiles are, I had seen the photos of Monet's kitchen in Giverny for years, and then finally in 2017 we took a visit to Giverny, and I absolutely fell in love with them and had to have them in my dream kitchen. So in 2021, we made the journey to the little tile factory that Monet had used, which is Ponchon in Ponchon, France. And it's when Monet would have bought the tiles, it was a group of 7 factories. And now it's one small atelier with an amazing artist who is keeping the tradition alive. So these are all hand painted. And we did a custom glaze, so they really tie into the ones that Monet had in his kitchen. And then we were also able to do a portrait of the house in the center. And since the name of the house is Oakton, we have the oak leaves to the upper left. And since we have so many squirrels, which in my opinion now are really tiny terrorists, we did a portrait of the squirrel. And then Thomas can talk about the renovation that we did in here.
Yes, we did a simple renovation. Well, maybe it wasn't so simple, but the cabinets were originally kind of a light honey color, and we decided we wanted to get them painted. So we used a floor paint from Resource. And a floor paint on cabinets gives you a lot of durability and so forth. Because if you think of it in terms of putting it on a floor, you can walk on it. We don't walk on our cabinets, but they do get some use. So the floor paint does help. We added the curtains behind the glass doors since we inherited the cabinets. And we really didn't want to see what's inside of them. Cabinets can get messy. So it's just, I think it gives it a nice cleaner look. We installed the butcher block counters, which I think give a nice warmth to them. Replace the hardware, replace the marble that was here. There was a granite here. And it just all looks much lighter and brighter. And as Michael said, with all the light coming in from the skylights, it's a very pleasant room to work in. although Michael's the one that primarily works in the kitchen. I do the cleanup. But anyway, the look of the room is just very sort of casual country. There's a needlepoint cushion on one of the chairs that Michael did. It's a cabbage, so that has kind of interest adds some interest to the kitchen. Some artwork and pieces that we've picked up over the years, obviously sort of kitchen related, the cabbage, the grapes, the still life, the naturemort, and more vegetables and so forth. Here we have a few pieces of Majolica that are scattered through the house, a couple of plates at the top there, some pitchers sitting on the counter. The sconces that we have on this stone wall, it's stone and brick, very rustic sconce that I bought years ago in Milan and had used them in various locations, and they seem to be the most perfect here. Above the armoire is a painting that a dear friend of ours gave us. We admired it, and she had inherited many pieces from this artist, and she gifted that to us, and it has very special meaning, and it has a bit more of a modern look than most of the artwork in our house, but then it's combined with our collection of blue and white. I guess by now you understand that we do love blue and white. Several of these pieces were purchased in Paris recently, and combined it with a few white stoneware pitchers and so forth.
So we really rely on what's growing in the garden. So since we're in Virginia, we pretty much have something out there 12 months out of the year. The winter is obviously much more driven by leeks and parsnips and rutabagas and lettuces, whereas in the spring and summer and fall we have wealth of great produce that we can just go out the back door and pick, and that drives all the menus and what we eat. So we eat very seasonally.
I think as far as when we start looking at designing the home and so forth, we really seem to gravitate towards very similar things. We seem to agree on most things. There are those occasions that we might disagree or look at things differently, but we pretty much have the same eye. If we go to an antique show or an antique shop, it seems like we'll both gravitate to one thing. It's very uncanny. So we really had an easy time doing the house. There are a couple things that might not have been so easy, but I think overall it's been good.
Well, you know, and we don't really argue ever, which is great. But if we do hit an impasse in the process, we just stop until we can sort of, and then it just doesn't get done really. That's the way that works.
And here we are in our library, which is probably the most used room in the house. It has a certain warmth, not only in the wintertime, but also throughout the year. We use the fireplace constantly. We also have a small dining area in here that we have dinner many nights, and we will also entertain in this room. This is a room that sort of everyone that comes to the house gravitates to. The color of the walls just kind of envelops the room with this wonderful sort of blue-green, sort of almost an undescribable color, and takes on different feelings as the light changes and so forth. One of the biggest things in the room is our collection of Russian impressionistic paintings, as you will see throughout the room on both sides of the fireplace. They're here on either side of the doorway. There's some interspersed in the bookcases. These were things that I started collecting. I had a particular affinity to them. They sort of remind me of my background, and I particularly love some of them are unfinished, and they come from various different artists. All of them are signed on the back, which is rather unusual for most artwork, and I put lucite on the back so you could read the signatures. The room is anchored by an antique Ushak rug, which was originally purchased for our Gramercy Park apartment. It has wonderful colors and rather unusual for an Ushak, the browns and the greens and the golds, and it's very rich. And the sofa was custom made that we've had for years, and it's upholstered in what is one of my favorite fabrics. It's an Italian linen velvet, which just wears like iron, and as it gets older, it just mellows, and it has this wonderful shading effect to it, and you can see how it varies with the way the light hits it and so forth. And on the sofa are a collection of needlepoint pillows. Some of the pillows like this and the two on the end there were done by Michael. The other ones are antique needlepoint pillows.
Particularly all the garden books have almost all been read cover to cover by me over the last 10 years or so. And certainly all the French novels have from when I lived in Paris and was at the Sorbonne. So I have, and even after, obviously, I lived in Paris. I've continued to read in French. So yes, all of those. And then that section is sort of the to be read section. But yes, the books are constantly on and off the shelves. And use them as reference we use them for references for design work, for the garden, for just the pleasure of looking at them, really, for enjoying the photography, enjoying the ideas.
And I would have to say that the section that has most appeal to me are the decorating books that we have a large collection of, that I'm a little bit more apt to read those than the garden books, which is Michael's category, or the cookbooks on this side, which is his category. But all in through here, different designers that we've collected through the years, and they're great reference books. I mean, some evenings we'll just sit and just pull a whole bunch of them and sit in the chaise and just spend the night flipping through beautiful rooms. The bus in the room I purchased at an antique show in Southampton, and in those days there was a big outdoor antique show, and these were just sitting on the ground, and I had to have them. They obviously are not very mobile, and I had to have obviously had them delivered to the apartment, and I had these pedestals. And when I told the man to put the bus on the pedestals, he refused because he said those busts will collapse those pedestals. So I had to have the pedestals reinforced with a new base and so forth, and they have stood their time in Gramercy, and now they're standing their time in our library in Orange. And the busts are made of marble and bronze, which obviously makes them extremely heavy. As you notice in this room, we have a lot of pattern and color. And the thing when mixing patterns together, you have to look at the individual piece. Like this piece over here, the chaise has a lot of pattern, but if you put something like this right on top of it, it might look a bit confusing. You have to think of things separate in the room as individual pieces, and how do they relate to the wall, how do they relate to the floor, and in this particular case, the toile ties into the brown, this chair ties into the green of the carpet, as does the sofa and the chair that we did in the same velvet. The pattern of all of the pillows, again, contrasts against a solid background. So again, I think if the sofa had a lot of pattern on it, it might be too much. And I think that having the dark green as a background, it just gives you this individual piece and their individual moments. The moment here where you have the tapestry on the wall, again, some pattern, but it's separated by wall color, it's separated by the table and chairs, and that makes for a particular, almost separate area in the room as a separate dining area.
How did we meet?
How did we meet?
Oh, well, it's rather a classic story. We met across a crowded room. We were in Chicago 25 years ago in this April, and at a color conference and for work, and I had gotten to the conference opening remarks late, and I had to sit in the balcony, and I looked down amongst, I don't know, 600-700 heads, and I saw Thomas and thought, my, he looks cute. So, yeah, and then we ended up in a small breakout room with on our little committee that we were working on at 10 people, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting for this one person, which now, 25 years later, I know why we were waiting, because Thomas has a terrible sense of direction. So, and in walked Thomas, and that's it. 25 years later, here we are.
Across the table, those blue eyes were just staring at me. What could I do? And here we are. I guess it worked.
Every day's been bliss. Let's go in the sunroom. And now we're in the sunroom. This is the one room in the house that probably had the biggest change since we moved in. When we moved in, there were bookcases on all 3 walls. The French doors were closed off with a bookcase in front of them. And then we opened that back up, took out all the bookcases. The walls are lime washed in a pale, pale pink to complement the red and oranges in the bricks. The floor is brick, which is a fantastic floor for a plant room because if water gets on it, it's low maintenance. The pieces of furniture are pieces that we found. We found this chair at auction, and we found this East Lake chaise at Brimfield, Massachusetts, at the flea market there. Both of them are covered in my Walton fabric, which is hand printed. And then the mirror we found in the Finger Lakes at a little antique store hidden away in the back corner. And it's an interesting melange of bits and bobs and shells and a little cameo on the top. So it's a really fun piece. The plants are in here for the season. They're as anxious to get outside as I am to get them outside, which should be happening in about another week or two. The wire plant stand is a plant stand that we actually found at a flea market in the Finger Lakes at Madison Bachville years ago, and it's the perfect piece for in here. This little table and chairs, the chairs we actually bought at auction for a house that we were absolutely certain we were going to buy and did not buy. So there you have it. But fortunately, these chairs worked in this house, so we were able to paint them and use them in this sunroom. And then the French doors were a big project because we had to knock through the wall and have the doors custom made.
And one of the things that Michael didn't point out are the 2 chandeliers that were in the house that were not in this room. There was, I think, recessed lighting in here. But they're really quite fanciful. They almost look like icing on a cake if you look very close to the way the bronze comes over the bowl of the chandelier. And they were in 2 different rooms in the house, and we sort of put them in here. And on these brackets are these really fanciful, they are vases actually, that were given to us by our dear friends in New York. So let's go and check out the rest of the house. So before we go upstairs, let's check out the powder room. This was actually a full bath, and we really use it as a powder room for our guests. So what we did is there's a full shower behind here, and we added these doors to conceal the shower, and they're upholstered in a beautiful Fortuny fabric, which happens to be one of my favorite patterns, and also Fortuny is one of the loves of my fabrics. The walls were done by Michael, where you see they're a shaded shade of green. They're all sort of antiqued and washed. And in here we also have a collection of French garden gates in the sepia tones. What I did, since it's always hard to find tissue box holders, I actually decoupaged this myself to have that same sort of black and white feeling. These are drawings of Michelangelo, And we also added the monkey sconces, which I think give a little bit of a whimsical touch to the powder room. The sitting monkeys at the window, and we also use these little guest towels with monkeys on them. So you get a bit of a theme without getting too carried away. We added the piece of furniture here, and the dark wood against the green walls gives a certain richness. This is the old Paris Opera, and then we have an Italian piece above it. When Michael said that we were looking at houses in Virginia, I thought he was actually crazy. I said, why Virginia? We've never been there.
I'd been there.
Or he had been there, and I just thought it was a little absurd, but came down and fell in love with Virginia, and obviously fell in love with the house that we ended up buying. So I guess in the long run, he was right.
Well, we also have to credit our friend Charlotte Moss, because we had been at a cocktail party that she was hosting for another friend, Margot Shaw, for her book, Flower. And I'd asked Charlotte about Orange, Virginia, and her response was so overwhelming positive that's what I think got onboarded Thomas to the idea, because really it was completely random and absurd for us to be looking in Virginia, because we had no connection to the area at all. 5 years later, I can say we have great connections to the area and have great friends here.
We do indeed.
Let's head upstairs. Now we're in the primary bedroom. This is a fantastic room. It has light on 3 sides. Since it didn't really have a full wall to place the bed on, we're floating the bed in the center, and we're flanking it with 2 screens that we covered in mohair velvet. And we have a collection of bits and bobs that we've acquired over the years that just each reflect our own personalities, and they're very different on either side of the bed. The chair under the window, it's one of a pair, and it's in one of my fabrics that I custom printed in the Gramercy pattern. The 2 chairs in front of the fireplace are 2 that we found in Woodstock, Vermont, in a little antique store. And then we had the tremendous good fortune of finding a very large curtain panel made out of this beautiful Jean Monroe hand-printed fabric. And it even had the little ruched trim on the edge of the lead edge of the curtain. So when we had these redone, we reused the trim and added the piping, the gathered piping on the cord on around the back of the chair and along the front edge of the seat. The needlepoint ottoman was my COVID project. I did that in Berlin work, and I followed an 1840s charted pattern, so it was not a painted pattern on a canvas, but I counted all the stitches. So that was, COVID was a long period, that lockdown, so needed something to do. So that was the project. Originally started life as a rug, but Thomas decided that it needed to be an ottoman, that he didn't want to use it as a rug. We have another collection of blue and white that we've acquired, just bits and bobs. This is a painting that we found in upstate New York in a little antique shop. These bronze lamps are rather special. Thomas just found these years ago at an antique store in High Point. The finials are particularly lovely. The bed hangings are made from one of my fabrics, Thomas, and the pattern's Thomas, and we custom printed it in the blue on cream linen and linen and silk ground cloth. And the interior is lined with a coordinating green damask fabric. And the hellebores are from the garden. This is my side, so it has a bit of a different theme to it.
Okay, now we are in our dressing area, which this area has a particular fondness for me, since I actually upholstered all the walls, covered all the doors, and even covered the moldings with a antique linen velvet. So it just gives a wonderful, almost jewel box-like feeling. It's a great background for small bits of artwork and things that we've collected over the years. There's a collection of menswear that were ads for a French magazine. And this is pretty much the area that all of our closets are in. This also transitions into the guest bedroom, which also the guest bedroom has an entrance from the other end of the house. What the word home means to me is a place that you can put yourself in, surround yourself with things that are so personal to you that you enjoy just sitting and looking at them. You enjoy them. Home is where we enjoy each other, where we enjoy our friends, and it really is a sanctuary to get away from the world. No matter what's going on, when you're at home, you're surrounded by your environment, and no one can touch you at that point. It's you.
Yes, I don't know that I could elaborate on that any better.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.